it is, though. I mean, they have all the military equipment to map it and go up at high altitudes and stuff. So are you saying that they don't even know what it is and they're just believing it?
No, what if they know what it is and they know it's a globe? Like, what if it actually is a globe?
Right. Well, I mean, that's the discussion. Yeah. I mean, if you want to go there in terms of, yeah, if you want to, I mean, that's a very different perspective because from the perspective that it is a globe, you could then say it is that they're not lying about that, but there's still corruption, and there's still evil out there, but they're just not lying about that. So, but the thing is that even if you were to go that far and to say that they're just like really enlightening us and showing us all it's a globe or whatever, the thing is that, I mean, there's still so many other evil things going on that obviously there still is like a cabal, even if you know what I'm saying. So, yeah. But if they are lying, I mean, from the perspective they are lying about it, obviously that means it's just much more multifaceted than probably most people would have considered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In their own structure. Oh, go ahead, Truth.
I was just gonna say, if they're intentionally lying, they probably are evil.
Oh, they have to be intentionally lying about it, yeah. Or the globe, yeah. I mean, they know what it is, and I don't think they believe it at all. I mean, there doesn't seem like they do. It's like the propaganda. I hate to say this, but it's like the peasant cosmology. Like, I'm not trying to call anyone a peasant, but that's how they think of people. And then you get into like the goyim and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's like they think of us as a lower class, and so it's like it's the false, deceptive thing for the lower class, and it's like a propaganda campaign and everything else that it seems to be. But yeah, so it's something they shuttle to us while they, occult, more information from other people.
The world is a mirror.
This is where people so powerful.
So, yeah, Truth. No pressure. Would accepting flat Earth or anything similar affect you in your personal or professional career?
Probably. If I told people I was a flat earther, I probably would.
Darn. Yeah, I know. This is the same response I'm getting from other people who are globe defenders, and I can totally understand. I mean, just imagine you start talking to your clients and telling them Earth is flat when they're like a full blown on. They're like an normie who's never taken the time because they've been so busy or whatnot to look at anything other than what's going on with their friends, family, and entertainment. So to them, it would sound crazy. Maybe they wouldn't even want to associate with them. Like, I had that initial knee-jerk reaction response with my friend because I went to him and I was like, "You guys," I went to my friends and I was like, "I don't even think we went to the moon." And one guy, my friend Brick, he said, "I don't even think the Earth is going around the sun." And like instantly, I thought he was insane. So I can see, yeah, maybe clients or customers might.
Well, I do a lot of math for my job, so if I was talking about flat Earth, they would think I'm bad at math and probably fire me.
Darn.
Just because they've kind of been programmed to think flat Earth is bad and stuff like that.
Yeah, to defend their knowledge.
Because if you told them that the Earth was flat, that would mean most of their credentials are wrong.
Yeah, I think this is a challenge for many globe defenders. Like presuming that Earth could be a globe, I understand that, but just the fact that challenging it or going to your friends or clients and saying, "I don't know if the Earth is actually a globe," yeah, that would maybe, who knows, right? I don't know how it seems like. Just thinking about it, seems like since the majority of the globe, the population are globe defenders, that the majority of them will probably have some sort of negative response to flat Earth. Maybe 7 out of 10. I don't know what the number would be. I'm sure some people would entertain it open-heartedly, but then if you come across someone, let's say in the military, a high-ranking military, of course they have to defend it vehemently, militantly.
Or any scientist.
Yeah, any scientist. Although there are some scientists who are maybe, it wouldn't surprise me how there's many flat Earth PhDs out there. I remember someone asked James Tour about cosmology. Did you see his response?
No, sir. What did he say?
He's too busy.
Oh, yeah, he's probably a globe earther then.
Oh, 100%. But I think, maybe. You never know, right? Because you never know. But they did ask him because people on the flat Earth side want him. We feel like we need him on our side, just like how he's challenging evolution. It's one of the top scientists in the world, one of the most cited scientists in the world.
Taking back Eden, you need to become an evolution believer.
Okay. Well, it seems like the definition of evolution has already evolved back into, it's come full circle or something, or 180. Because now they say evolution is adaptation.
Well, that's a part of it.
Yeah. Well, okay.
It's the process of continuous adaptations.
But there's a law where, where species, or not species, phylum remain phylum, or wait, it's some sort of law where people cannot jump their genome, or no, not that. There's a proper term for it. Essentially, speciation is not as straightforward as it appears to be on the evolution side.
Well, speciation is just how you classify things. I mean, speciation is just like a technical term to classify different species, but
yeah, I agree.
It's not that important.
Yeah, that's true. It's just there's really interesting details when you look into it. Like I'm sure you've heard about the horse and the mule when they interbreed, because they have different. I think they have different chromosomes. A number of chromosomes that leads to the donkey. I don't know. I have to double check. But I've heard people talking about that. But okay, so evolution. What about evolution? There's going to be before human evolution and life evolution. Do you think there was space evolution and chemical evolution that led to Earth being, I guess, ripe and ready
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
So gas would cluster in space, and then gravity would bring the gas together. And eventually, this gas clusters would create stars, which would then create galaxies, and basically created the modern universe as we know it.
Okay, where is gravity?
Gravity's
Is it
all around
only
you,
around?
sir.
Oh, pardon me, sorry.
It's everywhere.
So is gravity surrounding, I guess, these large masses? It's like, is it because I guess we have 1 G here, Jupiter has more Gs.
Yes.
So, but in space,
Mhm.
so when the Big Bang, where was the gravity, in your opinion?
It was well, yeah, that is one weird thing about the model, is because it says the Big Bang says the universe expanded, which kind of goes against gravity, right?
Yeah, there was an explosion, and I think they're thinking that it's going to coalesce once again. Maybe gravity is going to pull it back together.
Well, it sounds like the Big Bang. It's talking about the universe expanding from a single point. But what if that single point was actually a black hole before? It was the center of a black hole. What if the Big Bang was just a black hole dying, and then when a black hole dies, it creates like a new universe?
Like a big explosion.
Yeah.
And then, so the gravity. Okay, so let's just take this path. So we have this massive black hole. It must have gravity levels that are unheard of or unfathomable, but I guess we can calculate it. It explodes for whatever whatever reason, and then I guess what happens to so the mass is now redistributed from within the black hole. So the gravity might no longer be around there. Where do you think the gravity? I don't know, right?
As the space moves, as the matter in space moves, so does the gravity move with it.
So, okay, so I guess we're in space. So space, I guess we can envision space being squished, shrunken.
Yes, correct.
Water's not very compressible. That's one problem. Imagine
Well, if you put water in a black hole, it's going to get compressed.
the theory. That's one theory. Can we compress water in very much here on Earth? I don't think so.
It doesn't matter about Earth. It matters about space.
Yeah, that's. Yeah. Well, gravity, very interesting. I suppose we can have gravity on. I was just learning last week or the week and a half ago that even Isaac Newton was, I think, had some formulas or understanding of a flat Earth gravity, or version of gravity. So it's not exclusive to a sphere. So gravity, yeah. So I guess in the black hole, gravity was in and around the black hole, and I guess they say it's smaller than a period on paper, right? So everything would have been compressed. So gravity is also in that dot, I guess. So
Yeah.
So the explosion and the expansion, and then where's just the gravity? I guess gravity is just in space time itself. You think until what happens? What do you think?
Yeah, gravity is space-time. That's what I believe. It's space.
I know some people write it off in different ways, and because it's got like the double slit and different things in it. But I thought it was cool.
I'm
What
glad you
year did
watched
that
it.
come out?
Oh wow, that's got to be 2000 something.
I'm gonna look
I'll
it
take
up.
a look.
2004.
Okay, thank you. I think they had a
Yeah, quantum
follow-up.
physics. It's all like the spiritual connection between quantum physics and consciousness. I just
Yeah.
read that little thing because I looked up the year. Yeah, 2004. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I
And then there was
have
like
to
a second one too, right? It's like
Yeah.
there's like a sequel. What is it? What the bleep do we know now, or something?
Oh yes, good memory.
Is that what it is? The
I'm
second?
just double checking. That sounds exactly right.
No, it's what is it?
Do we know? What the bleep do we know?
Oh, what the bleep down the rabbit hole is 2006.
Oh yeah.
I think that's the second. Which one are
Yes.
you saying?
No, you're right. That's right. Down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought what the bleep do we know now. I don't know where I'm getting that. If that was somewhere in, yeah, I don't know if I just made that up. I'm pretty sure that's from something, but yeah, down the rabbit hole is the second one, 2006, and then 2005. Not really as much of a fan of that actress. Like I know she's like semi-deaf, right? And I mean, it added a certain thing to it, but
Yeah.
it was a little bit like, yeah, yeah. I'm not really criticizing her because she's deaf. I guess I'm not really a fan of her acting, maybe actually. But I mean, in terms of like giving people an opportunity more so, I don't know if if there's any. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, maybe that was it.
To a degree, but it had a beauty to it in that way as well. But it was like a little bit harder because remember there was like translations. It was like sign language and stuff at some parts.
Yeah, that's true.
And it just didn't like it's just like it was like a sensory experience through her being deaf kind of thing as well in terms of the storyline. But then it had all those other cuts in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Interesting concepts for sure. It almost makes sense too. Some of what they were presenting. I mean, how we affect our thoughts affect and transmit, and maybe on that level, maybe in the quantum level or in the string level.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that came out of like the whole kind of lineage of everything from like the 60s and then the 90s that kind of unfolded. 70s and 80s are just kind of like an in-between zone because it seems like the real advancements happened in the 60s when a lot of the stuff really started popping off, and then in the 90s. Because like a lot of the information in that movie, is kind of from the whole kind of era of just like consciousness research and then quantum physics, and some of it on the more spiritual side, and then some of it the more quantum physics, some of the quantum physics stuff.
Yeah, definitely. This was well before flat Earth, I think. I'm sure there were some flat earthers out there, but not in the mainstream.
Right here, they call it. It says quantum mysticism is one of the phrases that they have on it. There's actually a whole Wikipedia page for it. Oh, and then it says known pejoratively as quantum quackery. But,
Wow.
it's probably actually something to this. Fritjof Capra. Yeah, well, they mentioned him here. He's brilliant. Yeah. So, oh, Schrodinger, they mentioned in here. David Bohm and Fritjof Capra. Those two guys are definitely brilliant.
Oh yeah, for sure. And calling them calling it quackery, maybe that's a sign. Maybe there's something more to it.
Oh yeah, because I'm aware of this in general, but I'm just kind of looking at the Wikipedia page here. I'll post it.
Oh, nice, thank you.
Yeah, it's like the first thing. It's like quantum mysticism, sometimes referred to pejoratively as quantum quackery or quantum woo, is a set of metaphysical beliefs and associated practices that seek to relate spirituality or mystical worldviews to the ideas of quantum mechanics and its interpretations. Quantum mysticism is considered pseudoscience and quackery by quantum mechanics experts. Because basically what this is doing is it's taking like the quantum physics concepts, and then because like mysticism has to do with like the whole, like the undifferentiated whole, and having experiences of the whole and of that larger interconnectedness. That's why when people have mystical experiences, it's often what they experience, some kind of a dissolution of the boundaries of their personal self and an expansion in certain ways, or like a like more into more of a holistic state of awareness of like the larger field of consciousness, essentially. And so when you mix those two, the kind of quantum physics stuff, and then with the kind of we get into like ether, because the ether has to do with the whole, and the background medium that would be like the interconnected, etc. So yeah, that's why the kind of quantum mechanics experts, quote unquote, that they call them here, which are there is kind of the mainstream field of that, are going to definitely set this all aside, because it's in that whole category that seems like the kind of controllers have wanted to convince everyone is just completely pseudoscience. Everything having to do with spirituality, mysticism, and many other facets like that. Astrology they throw in there, the plant medicines, the different practices, meditation, all that stuff. They pretty much throw it all in. But yeah, so it makes sense why they have that. But yeah, but this is like a pretty exciting thing, actually. It's like the interconnectedness between like the physical matter, when it comes to some of the quantum stuff, and the ether, really, and then who we really are on a more, totality level. So yeah,
Yeah,
makes sense. We would instantly just ridicule it in the first sentence.
definitely. Just like they do with a lot of other things that turn out to have a lot of substance to it.
It says that Heisenberg and Schrodinger, which were like two of the pioneers of quantum mechanics in the 1920s, it says they were interested in Eastern mysticism, but were not known to have directly associated one with the other. So that's interesting.
Quantum field theory is actually a real science, right? I mean, it's made up of, I think, the electromagnetic field, the Higgs field. Well, especially the electromagnetic field. That's an obvious phenomenon that people take advantage of, right? We got these maglev speed trains. So it is a science for sure, quantum field.
Oh yeah, I do think there's certain parts of it that are real, yeah, and then I think there's some that's not, some of the theoretical stuff.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is really an amazing guy, very advanced in a lot of things. Although he's not really like, in terms of the stationary planar Earth, like he's not really down. Like he pretty much, I haven't talked to him in a bit, but I mean, when I brought it up to him over the years and things, he's definitely like, no, it's not flat kind of thing. Like he's pretty much with the globe. But anyways, but one time, like, but he did a whole astrological analysis of the entire development of quantum mechanics, meaning that he looked at the alignments specifically of two of the luminaries, Jupiter and Uranus, because those are linked with massive breakthroughs in humanity. Because like Uranus is the principle of breakthroughs, and then Jupiter like expands everything it touches, so it's like a peak or an expansion. It's kind of interesting because Jupiter is like large or whatever as a luminary, but it is the principle of expansion. So when you have expansion and growth with breakthrough, you get these really peak breakthroughs in humanity. And yeah, so, and the transit only lasts for like, well, when it happens in the world, it only lasts for like 14 months. It's like a 14-month period, the Jupiter Uranus. So anyway, so he did a whole analysis of going through like the entire development of quantum mechanics, and then looking at all the alignments of the luminaries, and then syncing them when they have these breakthroughs. Anyways, that's kind of a side thing, but what I was going to really say about it, I was just kind of giving a little history on his work on that. But the thing about it is, one time he was just breaking it all down to me, and I was just sitting there. It's like he was blowing my mind, in multiple ways, and I was like, yes, this and that. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely resonance, like, because it's like he was going through the whole history of it, and I was just like, oh, it is absolutely mind blowing. So yeah, and then in my mind, I'm also seeing how it fits with like the toroidal field and a stationary planar Earth. So he's not even like even on that side of it, but he's still blowing my mind in terms of how, what I mean. So there's overlap, and there's definitely. Now, I'm not saying it's all legit, but there is stuff that is. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Absolutely, there is for sure. The electromagnetic field is definitely already part of quantum theory, and they're trying to. I'm sure they're trying to push the limits of their understanding right now, or as we speak.
And then with ether, that's the thing, is how ether is that's the thing too. So this friend of mine would probably not be all into ether. I mean, he'd probably. I don't know if I've talked to him too much. I actually probably have to a degree, but I mean, he would probably not, because obviously the mainstream. He's somewhat more mainstream in some of those ways. But that's the thing. Like, if what they're actually detecting is functions of the ether, then they're just calling it something different. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just reading right now. Here it says it seems that some scientists outside of the mainstream are arguing that the quantum vacuum or 0-point energy field is maybe just them rediscovering the ether. I don't really know what the 0-point energy field is, but go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing is, but the discernment is key though, yeah, because I'm not saying all of it is legitimate. That's the thing too, because yeah, there's a lot of like theoretical stuff, or so yeah, that's the trick is like being able to kind of, and maybe this is even why they've done this. Like if they've kind of suppressed the ether, but they knew they couldn't suppress it forever, and then they've brought in this kind of quantum mechanics, which maybe they can control it more,
Yes,
and then
yeah.
put a model on it and limit our access to it in certain ways.
Okay,
Prana,
0-point energy,
chi.
and it basically means it's over unity, which Nikola Tesla spoke about, and it's a real thing, but it's
Yep.
it's an electrical engineering concept and physics,
It's sort of like
meaning
a
you get
modern
more energy out of
scientific
something than is put into it. That's as simple as I can say it.
Thank you.
It's a modern rhetoric for the same conception as ether. Modern scientific rhetoric for the same conception as ether. But you go beyond prior to ether, you would have prana, chi, ki, then orgon too. Orgon was William Reich's terminology for ether. But I was going to ask you, Gio, are we currently? I want to say I thought I heard something about that. But are we currently in a Uranus Jupiter transit right now?
Nope, not at the moment.
Oh.
We did go through a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Let me see when that was. That was basically like last year, like kind of 2020, the end of 2023 into 2024 was a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. But currently we're not in a Jupiter-Uranus, but we are in a Saturn-Neptune is one of the main ones right now. It's like that big cycle.
Yeah, that's right.
Which totally fits a lot of things right now. There's like a little bit of like malaise, like there's a lot of things shifting, like things are a little unsure. Anyways, yeah, it's another era for the last main one of the one we're in now, the Saturn Neptune was like 2006, 7, and 8. So we're in like the next right now we're in the next major cycle from that one. We're in the conjunction.
It's supposed to have economic impact, right?
Well, there was the whole the one that happened there in was that 08, 07, 08?
Uh-huh.
So something I heard about recently in regards to the celestial bodies that we see in the sky is this Sunday, there's going to be, I think it's the moon and Saturn or something like that are going to be like in alignment.
Yeah, I was seeing that, Andrew.
Wait, you're saying that already happened?
No, it's happening this Sunday.
Well, because Saturn or the moon did just pass, like it would have been right in the same. Are you saying in the same part of the sky as Saturn, like right there?
Yeah, I'd have to pull up. Sorry, I'm in my garage right now. I'm on my workbench building things. But yeah, you can go to space.com and look it up. You can go to astrology.com or anything else and see that. That's what they're saying.
Well, there's a new moon on Sunday. So are you thinking of a new moon?
No, it's
Ooh,
supposed
that could be it.
Space. I'm gonna drop it for you guys.
Well, there is a new moon on Sunday, and then I'm just looking at so basically the moon passed right next to Saturn last night at 7 p.m. Is when it actually kind of was in the same part of the sky, but the moon kind of cooks along, and then it'll be a new moon on Sunday. What's that pick?
That's why people are saying something might happen Sunday or whatever.
Yeah, it's gonna be like a smiley face supposedly. Saturn, Venus, and the moon.
Yep. Yeah. And it's a new moon, and then supposedly with all the other events that have happened or something, it's supposed to be like a grand hurrah to it or something like that.
What day?
The new moon.
Is it Sunday or what
Yeah,
day?
I think so.
Sunday.
And it'll be in that formation for 15 minutes, I see, supposedly. You guys think that, let's say if there is a creator.
Well, basically, they're calling it a triple conjunction, is kind of what they're calling it. Like it's supposed to look like this.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
At least it's not a frown. Do you guys think that if there was a creator and he did give us stars in the sky that might appear random in some cases, but do you think maybe they're not random? Maybe they're in a specific, very specific pattern
Absolutely.
with like a story.
I don't think they're random at all.
Nice,
Yeah,
Gio. Me neither.
Yes,
You
they're
know,
in the constellations. Each one of them tells a story.
I was looking at the Dipper the other night, and it got me thinking. There's two other stars at the Dipper's tail that always hang on to where it almost seems like they're a part of it too. But if you include them, the Dipper looks more like a shepherd's staff, and so you would the way it moves, you would have a shepherd's staff rescue like in that motion of rescuing. Because most people don't know, but the shepherd's staff is curved, so that if a sheep falls in a hole or whatnot, you can pull them up by their head. You hook around their head and you pull them out of a hole, out of a ditch. Um, but so yeah, it's like I mean, in times past they looked at it like a ladle, like scooping out. You can look at it like wheat being reaped, like the cutting of grain or whatnot. But I was looking at it and I was like, really interesting. That looks like a shepherd's staff.
Hey, so actually, like what I just just on the topic from before, real quick. Like I now got the right. It's actually Friday morning is when that article, because yeah, that's it's called a midpoint alignment. So like the sun is at 5 degrees of Taurus, the moon is at 5 degrees of Aries, so that's about 30 degrees, and then Saturn it's actually a little bit more than or no, it's a little bit it's a little bit less than 30, but it ends up being like a midpoint alignment. So that's what they're talking about. That's why it looks like three like that are kind of, it looks like a triangle, but it's really like one's at the midpoint of the other two. So like the moon is in the middle. And then, yeah, you have Venus off to the one side and Saturn, and then the sun off to the other. So anyways, yeah. So it's Friday morning. Because when you guys were saying Sunday, I was like, wait a minute. Or Andrew had said the Sunday thing, but then, yeah. So I just got it right. Or I got the right chart here. So now I see what that is. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool little midpoint observation that can be made.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was on the new moon because the new moon is Sunday. But if that's Friday, I'm gonna keep an eye out Friday. Wait, tonight? It should be tonight, actually.
Yeah. Gonna have to take a peek.
Oh,
It is tonight. Well, it's kind of I think the article was saying Friday morning. So yeah, even if we like slightly missed it.
Yeah, and it was only for 15 minutes, I think, because of the firmament's rotation.
so it already happened.
Well, no, it wouldn't have been setting though. It would be more than 15 minutes, wouldn't it?
Well, possibly, Gio. I'm just, according to the article, it says that formation was only going to last for 15 minutes.
It says experts at the Weather Network say the best chance to spot this formation will only be open for about 15 minutes or so before the sunlight begins to peek past the horizon. Yeah, probably because with the lighting, and everything, yeah, to see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because the sun's gonna get stronger. Yeah, it's like before the sun actually rises. Yeah, so we actually technically missed it, and it sounds like a really rare thing, like 15 minutes. And you have to be in the right spot, but it's still cool.
Yeah, 15 degrees per hour. Reminds me of that. So I was actually listening to someone going over the calendars from the past, and they said that potentially there was a 360-day calendar. That kind of makes sense in a way, right? A circle, 360 degrees.
Yeah, and you can have one, like the first day of every season is day 0. So that's how you can get to the 365 from 360. You have a New Year's Day, then you have a day that starts each season, like when the sun moves into one of the cardinal signs. So like in the constellations, there's 3 modalities. So basically one of them is cardinal, which is kind of like a forward moving, activating energy, like a forward arrow kind of movement, like from one spot to another, like cardinal, like moving forward. Yeah. And then fixed is basically what it sounds like. It's fixed. So it's like on a point, like a fixed. And then mutable is adaptable, basically between. And so each sign is either cardinal, fixed, or mutable. And then there's 4 signs of each one. So there's like, 4 fixed signs, 4 cardinal signs, et cetera. Because 4 times 3 makes 12. And there's 12 signs, 30 degrees each, 360 degrees, 12 of them. So anyway, so every time the sun moves into one of the cardinal signs, it's the first day of the season. So the cardinal is like sparking it off. So you look at like the way the stars are all lined up, every time it goes into a cardinal sign is the first day of that season. So if that day is day 0 of that season, and then you start after that 1, 2, 3, then you would pick up those days to go from the 360 to the 365, 364. But then yeah, you do have to get from 364 to 5. But you can have a New Year's Day is its own day. So there's a New Year's Day and there's a first day of each season.
That's pretty interesting. Thank you, Gio.
Are you talking about if you divide the months into 13 instead of 12?
No, personally, the gentleman that was sharing this information, all I heard, because it was in passing, he mentioned that they had, what was it?
That's something a little different. Yeah, the 13
Yeah.
month. That one's
I
cool
think he
too. Though.
said, I think he said essentially every month was made up of 30 days, and the year was 360 days.
No,
That's all I
that's wrong.
heard. Yeah.
The Earth spins around 365-ish days, and then we have the leap years. I think every month should be 28-ish days for the moon cycle. Then you have 13 months, 13 times 28, 364. Then you add New Year's Day, 365. And then if it's a leap year, you add leap year's day. That way,
Yeah.
each month would be 4 weeks. Because right now, each month is 4 point something. It's like 4.3 or something like that. So it would just make the months a lot more clean and a lot more intuitive.
Yep.
And it also aligns with human cycles because, women, they menstruate on a 28-day cycle. They mirror the moon.
You know what I think
So-
they found out? That if they really wanted to control humanity, they had to throw off the calendar
Yes.
from the natural flow, and of course tell us it was a false thing, the globe. But they also had to totally alter our natural rhythms, because if we were just like didn't have the globe thing, and then we're in the rhythm of the earth, like those are gonna be really hard people to control. The people already know they're in like a, I mean, they there isn't like atheisms or whatever in that. Like they already know that they're in a creation place basically, and that like everything is perfectly timed, and
Yep.
and that they're in sync with this place. So like to have some entities come along and be like, we're going to control you and tell you a big bang. It's like they would just be like, what? Like we're completely synced up with this realm. Like, what are you even talking about? No, our story's the right one. You're on a ball, and actually, it's like people would be like, what? They just wouldn't even pay attention to it. But if they do it over like with like wars and genocides, and they push the ball and they hijack the calendar and they throw us out of sync, now it's like a synthetic world essentially, or a
Absolutely.
synthetically timed world.
They don't know. People don't know what they're living on or what time it is. Absolutely.
Or just being out of sync with the earth. Yeah, with the cycles.
Yeah,
of
with the
sky.
calendar, you're right. Yeah.
Because if you do that, like if they're trying to tell people that like they just evolved on this ball and they're on this isolated, this just happened this way, why would it be so divinely orchestrated? Especially if they're also trying to push some kind of atheism or something along those lines as well, which seems like is what was born out of. As far as we know, atheism was born right with the globe theory and heliocentrism and the kind of development of this modern era, as they call it. Because as far as we know, like there was no like atheism in the past. So it's like it's like the globe is like directly connected to it. Because of course, that's the foundation of people who have that perspective. I'm not trying to go into a whole atheist discussion. I'm just sort of mentioning it as that's part of the agenda. It seems they have.
Yeah,
it's linked to all that, because taking us out of sync with nature takes us out of sync with the kind of divine inspiration, and then puts us into kind of some an attempted to be like a more artificially constructed reality, which is pretty intense. And like even when I think for myself, how they like, because I didn't like fully believe the globe, but I did like generally accept it. So like they even did that to my mind too in a certain way. Like got me thinking, that I did think it was that. So
yeah, I can empathize. Supposedly, parts of Ethiopia still have the 13-month calendar, the 28-day month.
Yeah. So do you think they also threw it off to throw women off in terms of their cycle as well, since it's connected to the moon? And then that could have to do with like even like eugenics or transhumanism, like trying to throw women's. There's also all the hormones and the environment and birth control pills. But do you think like throwing off the calendar could even be connected to that too? Like, hey, like in kind of an evil way, like we'll throw off the women's cycles and how they all vibe and how they're connected to the earth and Mother Earth. And then now it's like, oh, you have to, because these women with their birth controls, they have these like calendars because it's all off. You know what I mean? So that's like, you've sure you guys have seen those where they have the little calendar on them and stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's not the same day of every month. This month it's the 22nd, then it's the 24th, and then so they have to like, it's all out of sync. I mean, it shouldn't even be on that probably in the first place. It's all altering. But I'm just saying like the calendar thing is even kind of in that. So I'm just saying, do you think there could be an agenda to kind of alter the reproductive cycles of humanity as part of even to go as deep as part of the calendar deception?
I've never considered it before, but it makes a lot of logical sense to me now that you mention it.
Yeah, but if okay, let's say you're born on January 3rd, random date, and that shit's a Tuesday, right? Now your birthday is just always on a Tuesday. Like that kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? A guy born on the 7th or 6th or whatever, however you got to set up, his birthday is always on a Saturday. He's just getting it popping.
That's a great observation, Jeremy. Right? Some people maybe on Mondays.
No, but there's an extra day every year, so it would add every year. It would be a new day.
Yeah, you would cycle through. So like if you were born on like a Sunday, which I was, and then like you would then be a Monday the next year, and then a Tuesday, Wednesday. So you'd cycle through your life one day later every year.
Okay, if we're still cycling through it, okay.
Is that? I was gonna say, dude, for that to be your objection, I was gonna. That's funny, but
you gotta give people a shot, bro. Like my birthday's on a Tuesday. Like that's your
birthday is just straight up Monday morning every year.
Yeah, just on a Monday. He's born on a Monday.
I like Tuesdays.
Tuesdays ain't bad. It's not as good as a Saturday or something.
No, it's like Saturday, Friday, Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday. That's my personal ranking.
What days were you guys born on? Do you remember? I mean, I know you know the date, but do you know like whether it was a?
I looked it up, but I don't remember.
Do you have to chat GPT or Google your own birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just to know which day of the week it was. Yeah, I was. It was a Sunday. I was born on a Sunday,
Wow, nice.
but I was born in the evening, so it must have been like it kind of was Monday morning, sort of, because it was Sunday night. So I was born on Sunday night, going right into Monday.
Amen. I was born on Saturday morning.
Friday for me. Oh, Saturday, nice.
Yep, Saturday morning.
Have you guys ever one little practice since we're talking about birthdays a little bit? So you know, if you ever want to, you can go and look at like things that happened on your birthday or around your birthday, like the day before, day after kind of thing. Or you could even look like a week before, week after. It's up to you. But if you look at like events that happened, you know, things that like whatever like was in the news, you know, maybe like some new music, whatever it is, you can just see like things that were happening on the earth. And when people do this, some people find that there's like an incredibly interesting and unique way in which their life seems to like carry or represent the actual things that were happening in the world when they were born. And so it's just something that everyone can do and can kind of think about on your own if you wish. But and maybe it resonates with some, maybe others, maybe it doesn't. But I mean, that's obviously up to you. I'm not trying to say like everyone's just gonna be blown away. But I'm just saying if you look at like just like the news or things that happened on the day you were born, you know, see, and there's some that are really remarkable, like where there's certain things that people it does seem to be. It's almost like they absorb like the ether energy of that day in some very powerful way as well. And in some ways, it like either like connects with or like represents symbolically, or they resonate, or there's some way in which like their personality seems kind of characteristic of it, kind of thing. Like if someone was born on a day where there was like a huge storm or something, and then they kind of have like a stormy personality or something like that. Like just examples. I guess that's kind of one example, but yeah. So
Yeah. I've done that before, Gio, for sure. It's kind of fun to do. I agree
Hitler
with
was elected president on my birthday in 1934. I didn't know that prior to me looking up what Gio was just talking about. I was like looking up what things that happened around the day I was born. And then I came across that Hitler was elected president August 19th, 1934. Oh my.
My brother-in-law has his birthday, 420.
Oh my.
and Charlie Chaplin.
Oh,
Well, Charlie Chaplin's on the actual same day as Hitler. I think actual same day, like they had the same birth chart. Whereas you might just be thinking of the same date, calendar date.
that's interesting.
You ever see the worst week in U.S. history?
The day you were born.
It's not. It's not all the same. It's not all in the same actual week, but it's like it's within a week of time, like March, whatever. I forget what the actual date was, but it's like Hitler was born. It's like worst week in U.S. history. Hitler was born. The Titanic sank. Kennedy got shot. Like there's this whole list of things. There's like 30 things on it within this 1 week. Like I said, not all in the same year, but throughout the years. Like this is historically not a good week for us.
Yeah, supposedly, wouldn't surprise me. Let's say if these people in the State Department, they choose certain dates for maybe astrological reasons. Maybe they consult with their astrologers.
It's funny. Gio said think about a storm. And the day I was born, Hurricane Bob hit the U.S. And that's funny because my grandpa's nickname was Bob.
Storms are wild, but that's awesome, bro.
Yo, I found it. I'm gonna post it. Look at this thing. It's crazy. Like Lincoln was shot. Like there's mad stuff happened on this 1 week. Somebody read that off real quick if you want. I'm at work. I can't.
Well, I mean, the thing I'll say real quick, I'm kind of just back and forth from my mic. Oh, someone wants to read that, but I just jump back to say real quick, like the thing about like imprinting at the time you were born though is that like I know that like the generally was referred to as astrology, even though I don't really use that term in that way, but nonetheless, like that, the meaning of the positions of the everything. Well, you have like your birth chart, which is like the moment you're born, like it's basically like a snapshot of the positions of everything. And I'm not trying to get in a whole discussion of whether that is a thing or isn't a thing, but it is a thing in terms of obviously people studying it for eons of time. And my point is that your birth chart is it's like so in a way like the idea of like the ether, like imprinting kind of thing, like the positions of all those luminaries at the time you're born seem to literally be imprinted into the person, and like as on such very deep levels, it's like a blueprint of the soul in a way, and it's like a blueprint of the person's like whole life. So if that's being imprinted, then yeah, if there were things happening on the earth at that time, it could make sense that in that same way or in some similar way, like there would be it could be a resonance.
Yeah, I did hear that our environment, our epigenetics, affects our fingerprint. So it wouldn't surprise me.
I do hold that you, your life story is written in the stars. It's when people try to alter it, that's when you get issues. Because like you can't alter the stars. So if you understand that your story is written in the stars, then you'd have an easier time if you just knew your story. It's a good majority of people that study it. They look to see what's going on to be able to alter it, to be able to use it for something.
Yeah, Yahweh. Actually, I posted a video in the live stream. It's called "Story of the Stars," and it's from a point of view that the creator was telling us the story of creation through the stars, and it's essentially the true story behind the constellations. It's
I'll check
interesting.
that out.
Yeah.
No, I'll check that out because that's one thing I know is there, but I don't know how to see it, and I've always kind of asked within myself to be able to see that.
The presenter is a globe defender, but apart from that, it was a pretty interesting story. It gets into even Jesus in the stars, so I think you'll appreciate it.
Yeah, you can see that with what do they call it? Hercules fighting the bull, where it's Orion, the three in Orion supposed to be the belt of Hercules, the one on top's the head, the one down is the feet, and then the one out from it a bit is supposed to be the club that he's holding, and then you see the V that's there, and that's supposed to be the horns of the bull that he's fighting off. But if you were to take that with you know, with a biblical account, yeah, the one whose belt is three, and Yahweh Elohim Yahshua is at the beginning from the beginning, set in the consumption of that bull, that horned one. Yeah, I mean it's but I'm not gonna sit there and like push that on anybody and be like, this is what it is, because there's more argument in that. Like it would just be relating something that you see to imagery that relates to a story, and that's as much as you could do that. You know what I mean?
Yep, totally.
Yeah. That's like the only the only constellation or not I recognize is that, because someone taught me that one with the Hercules fighting the bull type of thing. I don't even know what constellation that V is. I don't even know if is it Taurus, or I don't even know. It's funny too though, because it's when all the Hebrews were told by Moses that God had said that He set the sun, the moon, the stars there to tell the times, of the seasons and the days, and what was going on. So they started reading the stars to know what was going on. But when you get into like the warning of sorcery, it's not about the observation and reading it. It's about that they started trying to alter their life based on what they could read and gain wealth and things like that. That's where it was considered sorcery.
Seems like if Earth is flat, it seems like that could be what they're doing right now.
Oh, dude, the majority of people that make money and have lots of money, they use the stars. People should not kid themselves about that one. It is a matter of fact situation. It is not like, oh, this might be no, it's a matter of fact. Now, if you understand what they're doing and what kind of financial moves they'll make, you can base your financial moves off of them without even knowing the stars, because you know that the main financial market's going to shift a certain way when they see the stars like this, or some certain way.
Yep.
Oh, Eden, if you're interested, tomorrow on the PNR server in the Learn About God channel, um, I'm having a debate with somebody. It's a moderated debate on did the Messiah rise a physical body or a spiritual body? I hold
Amazing.
the spiritual body. I hold the spiritual body position.
That makes sense. Like, so in the spiritual body. Yeah. What time tomorrow is it?
It's supposed to be 8 p.m. Eastern.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I'll tune in.
Yeah.
Spiritual body makes sense to me.
That's what it was. But it's I found it an important one to go over recently, not only because like the Easter time period and people bringing up the resurrection stuff, but I would say 85 to 95% of all Christians base the hope of their salvation in the idea that they are going to raise physically from the dead. Mm-hmm.
And do you think, because I've heard this, heaven will be here on earth rather than up in the kingdom?
It is here on earth already. It's within you.
And then, but when Satan is vanquished, do you think, I guess, we'll have a true heaven on earth once again?
He was vanquished at the cross.
Oh, that's true.
How do we get on the Bible?
Yeah, yeah, I know. I did want to ask Truth Seeker a few more questions about the globe. But Yahweh was just giving me a heads up about tomorrow's debate. So I did have a question about the Big Bang, like in water being compressed. So it says water is compressed approximately about 5%.
Hold on. Let me just say something. I just jumped in real quick because I grabbed. I just literally was asking how you guys got on the Bible. I mean, it has kind of been a thing on the server though. There's like a lot of Bible talk and stuff, and it gets brought up just like all the, very frequently because it's like everything can kind of lead back to it, or someone could bring it up. And I mean, it is some people's cup of tea. It's not other people's cup of tea. I don't know. We've been kind of talking because like a lot of people have been mentioning it and stuff. So it's like we don't want to like shut down conversations. You know what I mean? So it's like in that way, but at the same time, like there's some sort of a level of a balance. The thing is that there's always folks that bring it up. So like sometimes it could be for like 12 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll be 3 hours, and then someone else later, someone else later, someone else later, and then some people have like come in that have been part of the community for years, but they haven't been around in a while. And they've even come in and been like, "Is this like a Christian server now?" So because it is getting pretty like dominant. So I don't know. I don't want to like shut. At the moment, I'm not trying to shut down conversations. I mean, last night we actually talked about it for a while, and it was pretty. It's almost kind of more of a debate style, but I mean, it was the topic last night and stuff. So I don't know. I know it's a big topic. And obviously there's a lot to it. I think Blaze is going to be doing a weekly event, actually, that she's, as well. And then if anyone else wants to do like an event or like like a Bible study type thing, I mean, those are all options, but it's just sort of, just, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to hear what you guys think as well, but it's just,
yeah, for sure, Gio. I can appreciate that.
And I personally, like, I will not lie. Like, I primarily, my main thing come on Discord is to share the understanding I have of the scriptures. Now, I will say, I am not going to Bible thump somebody. I'm not going to try to force a conversation any specific way. I like it when things organically end up in that field. And so even myself, I will sit through 2-3 hours of conversation that doesn't even pertain to the Bible. And I won't gear it towards that. But when it's brought up, I'll offer what I have to share. So I don't mind, like, if you were to say, hey, everybody doesn't want to hear that. I don't mind that. I take no offense to it at all. Because again, I want to share. I don't want to just hear myself speak. So yeah, no. If you wanted to give heads up or anything, Gio, with no offense, period. But yeah, I was just taking the moment that there was no talking to just share with Eden about a debate, and then he just asked a question or two. But no problem at all, man.
Yeah, no, I hear you. No, I'm not trying to say that that I don't know. One of the things I'm not trying to say that thing where you were saying like, oh, no one wants to hear it. I'm not saying that. I mean, people, it's a topic. A lot of people are interested in it. It's like I said, it's probably some people's are interested and some are not probably. So it's probably split because we've seen that. Some people will be like, oh no, if that's the topic or if it goes on for long. Whereas other people obviously enjoy it. So and there's probably a lot of topics like that. I mean, some people probably love the Earth debates. Some people don't. You know what I'm saying? Some people are like, oh, I don't want to hear all the debating. Other people are like, I want to hear the debating. So yeah. And then there's just different levels of it. I was more just talking about it in terms of there's just kind of an energy lately where it's kind of like everything, or a lot of folks always, can always lead something back to it, and then it can be very in depth in that topic. I'm just saying it's kind of been more like dominant, I guess, in the overall time a lot, kind of time breakdown, I guess, just stuff like that. And then there's some people that have been expressing some frustration in different ways. I'm not trying to like open up that whole thing right now, but because I mean, we are kind of, it is intense. Like with this particular live stream, we're kind of balancing a lot of dynamics with a lot of topics. So.
I do want to say this, okay, because this is a really interesting thing to me, in regards to this. Out of all of even the Christian servers, out of all of the servers, all channels, all voice chats, I have not seen, besides another one a friend had like 2 years ago that kind of died out, the level of biblical conversation that's had on here that's actually been constructive. Everywhere else, it's so much infighting, yelling, just crazy stuff. I have seen here some of the best conversations on the matter where so many opposing sides are things can get heated, but I've never seen it so constructive besides here, which is just an interesting factor. Maybe that leads to why it happens so frequently.
Oh, that's interesting, dude. That's a very interesting reflection. Yeah, I appreciate you shared that. That's good to hear, and that does sound, that's awesome in that way. I mean, that is especially if that can happen. Yeah, because I guess kind of hearing your reflection on that, and because I guess I'm maybe not aware of the other servers you're referring to, but I'm kind of just going off what you're saying. But yeah.
Dude, any other server, any other voice chat, whatever specific doctrine that the main people represent, they may let someone from something else speak, but it's quickly shut up, quickly this, that. This is like not a religious server. It's not that, to where even though people like the Muslim mods don't want to hear it, I've seen you jump out, when things are going along, and other people whatnot, and come check to see if it's back still going and whatnot. But even you guys are fair. Like whether you agree with it or not, you'll mod based on the sincerity of modding. And it leads to really good conversations, to where even people who are stuck in a certain dogma that they haven't had like if they are questioned, it's within like a closed circle kind of echo chamber being questioned. And here, I've watched so many people who believe a certain thing get questioned in a way that I know, and you can see they are not used to, and it's good.
Right on, bro. No, that's awesome. And yeah, I don't know if maybe like some part of that is just because I mean the moderation is challenging. I in a way I'm like a live and let live person. Don't really want to moderate at all, but I think that maybe one part of it, like just in terms of like having an I guess like because were you saying on other places there's more personal attack stuff to where it ends up being that more so? I mean that can happen here too as well at times, but
In other places, you get like Christian holy rolling, where someone will start bashing other people who are talking about the scriptures based on the Bible, and it turns into like straight up attacks. Not just that, they'll just straight up ban people, mute people because they just don't agree. I mean, I personally have been banned from so many Christian servers on the basis of when people start questioning and they're like, oh yeah, that's interesting. I'll get banned for, oh, you're trying to create your own group. You're trying to drag people and create this. Like they become their own, how a preacher looks at himself as a shepherd of a flock. There are so many Christians with mod powers that's how they operate. They feel like, oh, I'm going to prevent this person from hearing this person so I can maintain their belief, maintain their agreement with me, really. And it's sickening. But here I've noticed on this voice chat, even those of us who profess the scriptures that don't agree, there are really good conversations that come out, and even the people who don't believe in the scriptures, the questions that they ask, because of the neutral field here, even their questions get gone into depth. In other servers, they'd just be kicked out as trolls. They wouldn't be given the time of day to even question. So I appreciate it. I appreciate this server.
Oh yeah. I think some of the best conversations anywhere in Discord. I mean, I'll go into some of these other chat rooms where they're really active. A lot of people's sitting there, but they're just talking about nothing.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of substance being discussed in this server, and it's refreshing.
I had one of those conversations with you, Torah, or Yahweh is King. And of course, Eden as well.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree on everything, but the things that we find that cross over, yeah, very, very interesting conversations,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And it's great hearing and sharing ideas. in my
Yeah, we're not
opinion.
going to agree on everything. The infighting between religious people is terrible. I've said it before in here. When you hear a teaching that's immediately applicable, it's immediately obvious.
Yeah. There's even infighting on the globe, right? If you don't believe evolution, or if you don't believe billions of years, excommunicated.
Or you ask somebody, is the sky curved due to perspective, or is it curved due to the fact that you're on a globe? They can't even agree on that because some of them don't even know.
Yeah. Maybe the infighting is worse on the globe, right? Because people literally get fired from their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I think since the whole Antarctica thing, like we've had an addition by subtraction type of thing go on where if you're only as strong as your weakest link, well, we can assume that all the weak links left, or at least a lot of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's
Great.
a question for everyone. Regardless of anyone's particular paradigm, at what point can people come to an agreement on different topics? Like, oh, 1 + 2 = 3. And then you start going down that avenue of things that we can agree on. And then, at a certain point, there's going to be a disagreement. So, what is the... At what point? Flat Earth, Globe Earth, religion, atheist, whatever. There has to be a breaking point at some point, or a tipping point. And I still haven't found out the answer. But when it comes to these very controversial issues, I'm just curious about what people might have thoughts on.
I think, Andrew, that's a great question and a great point. But personally, I think everyone has an Achilles heel to their beliefs. It's just a matter of pinpointing it through questioning.
Standing in the ring. I mean, I like using the boxing metaphor. Not that like it has to be this aggressive, full of blood type of activity when it comes to questioning what you think or putting what you think up against what others are saying. I just like the boxing metaphor, where your questions are like the opponents in the ring, and when you go through it, nobody likes to get their face hit and things like that. But when you go through it, you find whether or not what you stand for like is still standing or not.
Yeah.
You
And you
see,
still
so
follow.
it's
Sorry, bro.
yeah.
I was
Oh,
just
go
gonna
ahead,
say,
bro.
and you still follow rules, right? You don't do some low blows. There's a ref watching.
Yep. 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 You don't cuss someone out. I mean, yeah. Just the factor of the rules is where you see it's in what the engagement we're talking about isn't all. It's not bloody and vengeful, because if you're like, once someone who's professing a certain stance and getting questioned, once they go into adhoms, once they go into that kind of rhetoric, you see the instability of what they're saying, what their own foundation of what they believe. Um, yeah, I mean that's to me what it means to prove all things and hold fast that which is true. Um, that's the
Yeah,
way you do it. You got to prove it.
ad homs is a very good point to bring up. However, there are a lot of other fallacious arguments that people use, and sometimes they don't even know they're using them. So, when it comes to arguments, debates, and things like that, where do we draw the line? That's kind of like my point. Like, reality is a very big thing because we are all living in reality, I think. So,
Well, great point.
I know it's kind of funny to say that, but it's like, what is the reality, and where do we draw the line with argumentation and debates and physics? And
I
this is
mean,
a
it's
very open, broad spectrum of a conversation for me to bring up.
So
what
draw the
I've
line as in
seen,
where you walk away, or draw the line as in
where the
separation.
argument's useless, or to draw the line where the argument's useless and pointless.
Yeah. Because sometimes maybe some people might not be sober at the time, so maybe there are times where you got to draw the line and wait till they're sober.
Well, that also comes down to trolls. Like, I've noticed this room is really good at identifying and recognizing trolls and dealing with them really quickly. I've watched so many rooms, even rooms that aren't discussing religion and more on the topics that are in here, that the people are so, it seems like the people are so focused on hearing themselves talk that when a troll comes about, they treat them as if they're genuinely inquisitive, like they're genuinely responding. And it's like, how can you not recognize that person is trolling you? Like, It's
Yeah.
crazy, but I've noticed this room is really good at seeing that and doing away with it quickly. So that helps. But like when it comes to the best format I've seen that where conversations do well is when each party steelmans what the other party's saying and like truly presents that they understand where the other person's coming from, what they're saying, and in that manner, it's slim, it's slim and few. But in when it happens, you notice that the other parties actually things like conclude. It doesn't just keep
Absolutely.
dragging on, beating the horse.
Absolutely. And I actually start using that as well, because let's say if they have, if I'm presented with a question that they think is a defeater, I'll ask them to steelman it. And just imagine you have to come up with a steelman for $1 billion. Maybe that'll be inspiring for them to kind of come up with one, even if it's poor. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Because if they
it
can
is
steelman
really,
it,
really good. It is a really, really good practice for a lot of reasons. And one I was just an additional one I was just thinking of is that often when people are like in a little bit more argumentative or debating style, usually like let's say one person's like he really wants his point to be understood, so he's saying it. It might be forceful, it might be intense. He might be getting frustrated if he feels like the guy's not agreeing. And part of that might be like he needs to know the other guy at least gets what he's saying, you know, because part of it's like, do you just see what I'm saying? So if you just stop
Yep,
there and if the other guy steelmans it, even if it's a little reluctant, but if he does it, that's kind of like a I know what you're saying, bro, kind of thing, you know? It ends up being like, all right, dude, I know what you're saying. I gotcha. At least then, like you said, it's further to a conclusion because at least now the guy saying it knows the other guy knows it now. The other guy saying it is even repeating it back and kind of like inadvertently doing like a I hear you, you know, which is always a good confirmation. Like I hear you. It's like, okay, I was heard, you know, that's good. So yeah, it's another reason it's really good. It kind of gets them both hearing each other and then maybe even out of the frustration and then at least further to actually addressing the information itself.
Yes, absolutely. Because whenever there's a dialogue, right, there's going to be two-way communication. But one thing that I learned in communications class in high school is that just because someone's communicating doesn't mean someone's receiving. So yes, absolutely. So that's an effective tool to make sure that they're able to receive the message and understand it, relay it back. Yeah, message received.
Yep.
It's important. It's I mean, even even in therapy, it's one of the basis for a good relationship is that communication. And when you it's good practice, even if you know what the person's saying, to steelman, because what happens is after you've steelman, your steelman is going to the rhetoric of it is going to be utilizing what the person said, and so your response will be formatted through the manner in which they spoke as well. And so steelmanning kind of it's not only a good show to the person that you understand, it also it helps you pre-format your dialogue in response.
I like that. Well said.
Yeah, the reason I was bringing this up is because of, even though I don't like debating, I think debating is very interesting. So I think it's very informative for a lot of people, regardless of whatever point of view people have on a certain topic. But it's interesting and worthwhile for people to actually move into listening to.
Yeah.
Even some of the best FE and Globe talks are where I see the folks that are presenting FE steelman completely what the person presenting a heliocentric model is saying. And what you end up, it's so funny because again, like that boxing metaphor, what you end up seeing is the other side go into adhoms, go into redirectives, they tend to go into, like, let's say water remains flat, right? No 8 inches per mile squared. Instead of steelmanning that position, they will attack the conclusions, like the conclusions that you haven't said yet based on that fact. And so instead of steelmanning that to show they understand that fact, they go on attacking the unsaid conclusions because those unsaid conclusions defeat the foundation of what they're presenting. And so that right away shows, well, a lack of foundation in what they themselves are presenting. Whatever they have to present can have facts in it or anything, it shows an immediate Achilles heel in the foundation of what they're saying.
That's a really great point. But also, is there a debate that has been done that had nothing to do with flat Earth or religion or anything like that someone can bring up where they can say there was a clear winner and a clear loser?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure. There's consensus, right? Consensus. We literally have consensuses within enemy nations. Even the enemy nation has probably similar laws like our nations that say it's unjust to kill someone randomly on the street. Like for instance, in North Korea, I'm pretty sure that it's illegal to just kill people. So when people hear someone debating, let's not kill people. The majority of people are gonna align with that probably the most.
There was a debate about that.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just trying to maybe present that when I think there are clear winners, certain topics, and I think what happens is where there's no clear winner, perhaps maybe the information just was maybe not received well or presented.
To me, a debate with no clear winner shows that neither side has a foundation on what they're saying. They just are taking a stance in a certain idea.
Yeah, and sometimes debates don't have winners. It's just them presenting points of view and argumentation.
Yep. So it's not a true debate then.
Well, I fucking hate doing this. Presidential debates. Okay, regular debates I'm very interested in, but presidential debates or political debates that are live broadcasted. It's like, oh yeah, everyone has a point of view and blah blah blah. And I don't know. But when it comes to other debates, sort of like, what is the best type of food? I mean, we can go on with that for hours and days. But how are people actually deciding what the real answer is?
I guess maybe things that are subjective that will be up for interpretation. But if you're trying to debate something that's maybe someone thinks is objective, or maybe they both think is objective, I think there could be clear winners on both sides. Like one side might declare, oh yeah, this side clearly won, just like the other side would. So I think maybe it depends on what's objective and what's subjective.
Right. Well, there are certain things. And trust me, I am being as open as possible. If I were to say what is the best food, and I were to say dirt and like ash, like wood ash, is the best food, and someone were to debate against me, I would probably lose that debate really quickly.
Well, what about this? Is everything maybe? Are there things that are subjective, or do you think everything's objective?
If the debate was wood ash, his position in the debate would be wood ash is the best tasting food. That's where it becomes a subjective debate because he'd be taking the place of his taste buds, and they're not the same as someone else's.
No, I was just using it as a hypothetical type of a thing in regards to debates. So you can pick up, or you can do anything you want in regards to debates, any subject you want, and debate someone, and someone will always debate you. However, when it comes to the actual subject matter at hand, and when there's an audience listening to it, the audience will probably like give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, like who won the conversation, the debate. So that is basically the premise of my topic of what I'm trying to bring up. And you can ignore it if you want, move on to something else.
It's a good question, Andrew. Actually, I have a theory. I think that someone who I think personally the best debate strategy is employing or using the Socratic method. I'm sure other people have maybe another better one, but I like the Socratic method. So someone who's, in my opinion, using the Socratic method in a debate versus someone who maybe doesn't really have, who maybe of a lesser strategy. I think maybe someone using the Socratic method can make, even though their position is wrong, maybe even win a debate just with the Socratic method.
So
essentially, from my research, the opposite of the Socratic method is dogmatism. But go ahead.
So are we going by the definition of debate, or like what kind of like the people have called debates, but they're not really debates?
Well, yeah, you're right. Dialogue versus debate.
That's a great question, actually.
Well, no, because a debate by definition is just simply a serious conversation on a topic in which multiple people take part. You have debate competition where someone presents the best argument for a position, and the best argument is kind of what's decided on.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's like,
well, like also one of the classic ways that debates, it's like the idea of being like, as the most compelling to the audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then people can then kind of vote like how compelling. And there's even the idea like there's even the extreme idea it's not even if they're right or wrong, it's just how compelling they are. I don't know. That's
exactly.
Yeah. Like the globe.
And that's kind of how debates have been thrown around now.
Is it as simple as Occam's razor? Whoever has the least assumptions or the most facts?
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think so. And the reason I'm saying that is because the people that are going to be the audience are going to be the ones that are essentially voting on whatever topic it is. Like, I'll debate someone even though I hate debating. I'll debate someone on any subject at all, and I'll probably lose. But if someone were to debate on any subject whatsoever, and I listen to it, I'm going to have an opinion based upon the arguments that are put forth, like the Socratic method. So that's what I'm putting forward right now, because it's a very interesting subject. It is, well, it's opinion based.
I've seen
What's
I've
funny
seen
is
debates where one interlocutor actually, because of the questioning, gets kind of where they realize they were wrong. Those are really fun. But go ahead.
like, I think that would determine if one of the sides actually does stand in truth, to be able to sway the other party. But I mean, it's funny because argument and debate has in today's society come with so much taboo, kind of negative connotations. But in reality, by simple definition, if debate by definition is a serious conversation of a topic held amongst others, amongst many, an argument just simply means a discussion of two opposing sides, two opposing views. That's what you're supposed to do to come to an understanding of truth. So it's kind of funny that they're they're like put in a negative light to push people away from taking part in them.
Oh yeah.
Well, some
Just
debates
before-
don't actually do that at all. Some debates are two opposing points, and they never come to a conclusion. And those debates can be an ongoing thing.
I believe in those cases, neither side actually has a foundation in truth in what they're saying, and I believe that's what that's indicative of it, of why that occurs and where it doesn't go anywhere, because neither side actually has truth backing them up.
Could you defend or debate a topic that you don't believe, like a defense attorney?
That's actually really interesting, because when I was in high school, that's what I had to do. My history teacher was teaching us about like debate tactics and different topics, and gave us these different topics, and we had to defend it even though we didn't necessarily agree with it. And that was fucking weird. And I got lucky.
That seems immoral.
Well, no, it's weird, maybe immoral.
It
But
can be practical though, in a
like
sense,
mental
right?
abuse.
Because then you can maybe, like, if you're defending someone who's appears guilty but is actually innocent, and he turns out to be innocent, so it could be actually moral, right? Because defense attorneys do usually have to do that. Sometimes they don't believe their client's innocent. Maybe they do. It depends.
yeah, it's definitely like a legal tactic that people have used, and public speaking. Fortunately, the subject that I was given was about gun rights, and I was like, all right, gun rights, it's fucking easy. But then there was other people in the class that were debating against each other, and that was about abortion, and like these very heated topics. And this was, what was it, 25 years ago? And when you start to research stuff and then have to debate against the other side, then what happens is you learn more about that topic, even if you're against it.
I guess it's kind of like steel manning in one way.
Yes.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, the right conclusion I don't think is always reached. I mean, if the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit, right?
The
Oh, yeah,
best
totally.
debaters are gonna the best debaters are gonna be the ones that can steel man the opposing side.
Yes, I would agree, Jeremy. And that is because some people will just have a very strong opinion about something, whether it be moral, immoral, religious, or whatnot, or anything else. They'll just start arguing about something. And they'll lose the debate simply because they don't know how to steelman the other person's argument. And that's a problem. And that's where debate comes in. That's my only question.
Steelman is a lethal tactic. Like, if you bring up Steelman, I mean, it's going to immediately expose whether or not the opponent actually truly understands your viewpoint or is just espousing theirs into oblivion.
Well, as you're
Yep.
debating, you're either steel manning or straw manning. Like there's no in between. You know what I'm saying? Like you're either
I guess
going.
so. Sorry, Jeremy. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
I almost agree. You got to have really good evidence.
Well, you have to have evidence for your position, most definitely, or at least have a way to present your position to others, because that's what all evidence is. Evidence is a way for the observing party to be able to take hold of what you're saying. So yeah, you got to have evidence for your position, but to show that you understand the other person's position, to be able to um, respectfully like move through the dialogue, steel manning is like essential. That's how you do it.
Maybe that should be. You know what? I noticed this because actually, I was actually asking some of these globe geeks in the super chats, and then I remember just recently, but this was before TFE. People were like, "All right, no more asking about steel manning." Do you guys remember that? They would be like, "No, you can't ask them to steel man." I'm like, and I just remember that interesting now that we're talking about it. It's like they don't want to steal man because they know how dangerous it is to maybe their belief. Now I'm not saying everyone. It was just I remember people. I think it was at Jaren's debates. I think someone from the Globe side. I think maybe Craig or another one, maybe McToon. Please, I hope they can forgive me if I'm mistaken, but yeah, I don't remember now. But I just
I
find
feel
that
like
odd.
somebody like McToon should be able to steel man us. Or Ruhif, Ruhif is actually, I would give him credit for understanding our arguments very well. The only problem I find with that is it's like the guy goes swimming and he comes out and he swears he didn't get wet.
So yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes perhaps when someone is on one side, if they're unwilling, there is this one thing that I learned from a businessman. He said there's an index, a teachability index, and it's two factors: willingness to learn and willingness to change. If someone just isn't willingness, they have the ability to learn and listen, but if they're unwilling to change, maybe because they're so sure, that's one thing. But if they're unwilling to change, yeah, that could be a problem, though, right? If someone's presented with evidence that contradicts their firm belief, but they're unwilling to change, that means they don't have a high teachability index.
Yeah, well said. Like what you said earlier about them, denying the steel man,
Yeah,
I came up with a saying, it's integrity invites scrutiny and welcomes criticism. And I think that concept is universal.
definitely.
Integrity invites scrutiny and welcomes criticism.
Love that word,
Heck yeah.
integrity.
Yeah, walking with integrity, even though you might not be right about something, is what makes the difference of you either being wrong or mistaken. Because if you walk with integrity, when something you proclaim or said is shown not to be right, that integrity is what, has you bow the knee and, continue on. And it just is a mistake that you can correct compared to being wrong, where you can't correct it because you don't want to bow to it. You don't want to accept the correction. It's like another saying. Uh, when when you are told that what you know is a lie, um, you don't accept the correction, you go from being deceived to deceiving yourself.
Yeah. Similar to a computer that's infected on the network, right? So a computer will have malware installed, and unless it's able to detect it, it's essentially going out and spreading it. The only way that, in some cases, the programmer anticipated removal of this lie or malware, and it put in preventative measures, right? That I've encountered malware that you literally try to erase it from the system. You find the exe, you try to delete it, and it'll reinstall. The only way to permanently remove it, right, is, I mean, you could format the system, but if you don't update the operating system or the definitions, it'll just continue. So
Well,
literally,
the
they
best way
do.
to remove anybody, just to wipe it. A new operating system.
Yeah, and I think everyone
So that's the
that's
best way.
I think everyone has to update their operating system to the uncorruptible. It's been updated.
I think
Oh,
that's
they
why we're
already
all
got it.
kind of, in a sense, we all have that same ability to shift our paradigm and admit that we were wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The key to learning.
New operating system.
Yeah, right. A lot of people are
Same thing.
relying on man-made operating systems, right? Microsoft, Apple, right? And these operating systems literally have backdoors in them, and they don't even have protection, right? There's zero-day exploits. I
Interesting
think
you
they're
say that. Man-made. Like
Mhm.
when we want to find out if something's true, where do we go? Well, we go test it in nature. That's where we go.
Yes, natural nature. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the same thing as the second law of thermodynamics. You know, it's holding pressure in here. You know, therefore there's a container. You know.
Yeah, and the whole gravity thing, right? You can have a helium tank, open the valve, the helium's not going to remain on because of gravity at the surface, and then that's when they claim buoyancy.
You know, a lot of ways the FE debate really is like the ultimate exposer of cognitive dissonance. You know, like there isn't anything that your senses are telling you that jives with the heliocentric model.
Yeah, I agree. People literally explain their senses away because of man. Man that lies, steals, cheats, kills.
Yep, and when we want to know something's real, we go into nature. You know, or you look to your scripture. But even scripture, I would make an argument is, you know, you go test it against nature.
Yeah, man will say something, you just go test it, see if it comports, if it aligns with reality.
And I also mean that in like a spiritual sense, kind of too, like in nature, as in like human nature and how we interact with each other. You know, where you see how like forgiveness is like a skeleton key. Like you will
Dude,
live in a world of hurt if you don't forgive people. Yeah, we
Absolutely.
can't forgive everyone, and it's really hard. But I mean, if you were to go through your life holding every grudge against everyone, you'd be having a hard time.
Yeah, in fact,
Mhm.
that's what's the problem, right? People lack that ability, and it just becomes a cycle.
Well, and people don't even understand forgiveness. They think forgiveness is something that comes after someone's done you wrong, and that's what you offer them afterwards. Forgiveness is a state you have that before someone even crosses you, you've given them. That's what it's for. Mike's before forgiveness. You have it in you to give before they've even done you wrong.
Bingo. It's a state of being. Yeah.
Yep.
And like understanding why forgiveness is the appropriate action, I think, is what where like really where the rubber meets the road. Because like you said, people think that it's something that you do for somebody after they do you wrong, which would imply that it requires effort. But if you have the right
Mhm.
mindset, it requires no effort. It's already part of who you are, and you realize that forgiveness is the appropriate action. You know, because you've identified with the fact that you're an immortal being. Put it in a nutshell.
Even the idea of respect. People that's not like the way people think of it isn't even how we use it. Like when we talk about respecting each other, like one definition of respect is to consider someone in a position of high regard, like to hold them up, to esteem them above yourselves. But the way we use it at heart is the consideration of someone else as yourself. And I think the way it was defined in the past was to consider another person's ignorance as your own. Like, and the way I understood that was like we all have stupid thoughts. Like we all can admit that there are stupid ass thoughts that come before us in our own minds. So just because someone else is uttering one of those stupid thoughts, you don't start making fun of them. You look at them as yourself, you know? And when you have that position, you can help them operate past a stupid thought to get them to acknowledge or see that it's a stupid thought.
Definitely. Yeah.
Though it can be hard for me to articulate it, I feel like that when I look at people who have a severe lack of faith or globers, you know, like I look at them and think, man, I was you, bro.
Oh yeah. We have a lot of empathy for them. Unlike, maybe their leaders who literally call them goy on Google Doodles. Come on, man. And in fact, I think forgiveness is going to be so key, because if the people, let's say, let's presume Earth is flat for all the globe defenders in the chat or in the voice who are listening, if forgiveness is key, and let's say these people who are lying to the humanity, if they feel threatened, they might react in a way that's maybe not in the best interest of everyone. So however, if they don't feel threatened because people are willing to forgive them, maybe they'll internally want to make things right. Sometimes forgiveness is extremely difficult. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. To that point you just said there, like I said, I really mean it when I say that true forgiveness, once you have understanding, requires no effort. It's a part of your state of being. And I can't say that I've achieved that. Like, I understand in like an intellectual way that I'm an immortal being, but transferring that to be completely saturated into my heart as well is obviously the journey I think we're all on here.
I think that's the goal, to go from a little bit of to extreme. And there's some. Oh yeah, one great story called The Unforgiving Servant. That's a great story.
Yeah, great point. Like to what I said earlier about a teaching being, its value being immediately obvious. That would be one of them. And there was another one you brought up to me too a while ago, Eden, a couple weeks ago. I think like the traveler on the road and the guy that helped him.
The enemy. Would you help your enemy?
Yeah, dude. Like, and they asked like, who did God favor? And he favored the guy that stopped and helped him, even though he was his enemy. Is that right?
Yeah. Who was God most pleased with?
There we go. Yeah, the immediate, it's obvious the value of that right there. Like, God doesn't care about any of our social crap going on. He just sees what's going on, and who does what, I guess.
Yeah. And it kind of goes back to like maybe forgiving parents, right? Like there's a commandment that says you have to forgive your parent. I mean, honor your parent. I would not forgive, but honor. And maybe that breaks the cycle too, right? Because let's say a parent was very abusive. However, maybe by honoring them and you bring them to truth, that honoring will break the cycle once and for all. So forgiveness can break the cycle.
I think that's exactly what it does, bud.
Yeah. And sometimes when you see these people who actually are forgiven, now sometimes they're maybe not in the right mind state where they understand the gravity or the weight of that forgiveness, but sometimes where they actually are ready for that, to accept it, you'll see them sobbing. That's like, it really hit them. That people are even willing to forgive them. So it might be
such a
light
trip,
heart.
dude. That is such a trip that you say and word it like that, dude. So like after people are close to me die, I usually have like dreams about them and meet them and shit. And like my stepmom died in a fucking car accident, and the dream I had about her afterwards, she was speaking to me in a language I'd never heard before, but I understood every word. And what she said to me was, everything they've done for me feels like torture. And I interpreted that as like all the forgiveness people have, laid at my feet just makes me, feel like garbage or whatever, like I'm not worthy type of deal. But I feel like that was part of the transformation.
Thanks for sharing, bro.
Yeah, man, for sure. It just reminded me of that. I was like, damn, it's exactly what happens. Like unmerited favor.
Yeah. Maybe that's what's going to break the cycle that humanity is facing, right? Continual war. Just think of all the decades and generations of war, and then people reacting to wars. But it seems like we're getting closer to peace too. So, I mean, it might not seem like it with watching the news, but I think I think it could be done personally. I mean, I was just looking at the numbers. Imagine if everybody spoke to two people, and it's the 33rd exponent. Let's say that would reach everybody in the world, like a message, and then everyone could get on the same page. No more violence. But yeah, forgiveness. Imagine in a state where even people in prison, we don't need to have prisons or prison guards because now everybody just wants to do their very best. That'd be pretty epic. But a lot of it is information. A lot of us are just acting out on what we've been programmed to do. right? It's just like malware on the internet. Sometimes it's just programmed to go attack, spread the
It's a worldly
misinformation.
view. It's a worldly view and a worldly mindset. You know, when I'm talking about forgiveness, I'm not specifically talking about like just Christianity or any religion in particular. I really mean it as like a skeleton key type of deal.
Yeah,
Where in like alchemy, it's described that if you wanted to be like an ascended master, you need to achieve only two things to perform miracles, and those two things are to be free from all prejudice and free from all vice. Sound familiar?
yeah, it's true. There's non-Christian countries and nations and faiths that do have forgiveness in there. I'm sure, right?
Yeah,
No
like
doubt.
just what I said about that alchemical teaching. You know, in order to be free from all prejudice and free from all vice, you would inherently have to be, you know, ultimately forgiving. Buddha, free from all prejudice and free from all vice. Krishna, free from all prejudice and free from all vice. Jesus, free from all prejudice and free from all vice.
Yeah, it's like universal.
Bingo. When you can take something and match it universally, this concept fits here, this concept fits it fits everywhere. Now you're starting to, I think, see the message God's trying to bring to all of us.
No, how do we deal with the misinformation? Because I think in a complex society, we have misinformation between nations and greed, I guess. But yeah, maybe forgiveness is going to be the skeleton key. Unlocks our true potential, humanity.
Yeah, dissect that. Think about it. Meditate on it. Forgiveness is the skeleton key.
It's an interesting word, eh? Give is in there. I wonder why they chose give. I guess it's because it is you are giving someone something.
Unmerited favor that reflects the exact same unmerited favor that God bestows upon all of us. 1 to 1. Where does one end and the other begin? I don't think there is. I think that's how you know, achieve your divine state, if you will, you know, where you start displaying these attributes that are decidedly divine and don't represent a worldly type of thinking. You know, the crown chakra, purple, is associated with forgiveness, which is the
Really?
highest vibration in this place.
Interesting.
Hey, Gio, you there? Jeremy, Gio, you there?
Oh, Elbow,
I'm
welcome.
here.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Y'all hear that? The latest news that
Hmm.
Virginia Guffrey, the one that was accusing Jeffrey Epstein and
Oh
Prince,
no.
just died by suicide.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Like
and I'm
that's
the
not
governor of Alaska.
like that's not suspicious.
Yeah.
That was the lady who had sex with that British person.
Yeah, Prince Albert or whatever.
Yeah, the prince or the king or whatever. Is it Prince Andrew?
Yeah, Prince Andrew. That's it.
It's pretty traumatic abuse.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like that's not gonna be suspicious.
Yeah.
She was in a bad car wreck just recently, too, wasn't she?
Yep.
Really? Did not know that.
Well, yeah, she had a post on Twitter where she said she was maybe at the final stages of life because of internal injuries. But then, I think a day later, people were claiming it was actually domestic abuse.
I'm sorry, I was slightly AFK. And who is this woman being discussed?
Well, she's supposedly a survivor of trafficking of Epstein.
Oh,
Yeah, and she's one of the girls who, young ladies that were actually vocal. They had some movies about her on Netflix and whatnot.
okay.
It's a touchy subject, right? Some people might think it's fake, but it's probably it's. I think it's true. I don't know. What do you got?
It is a very, very touchy subject. But if someone's going to come forth and say, hey, I was associated with this particular situation that became a national kind of incident everyone knew about, and then bring forward their evidence. Yeah, it's very, very difficult because a lot of people will naturally say, oh yeah, she's just an actor, or that thing never happened.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of female victims out there for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's a very, very difficult subject matter to actually go forward with and say, like, oh, I'm a lawyer, even though they're not a lawyer, and I'm going to use the internet to prove or disprove that. It's not easy at all. And I do definitely have a lot of strong opinions in regards to these different situations, because some women are playing the victim card. Rape, as an example. But they were never raped. But they accuse someone of rape or something else. I don't know enough about that particular situation. But it could be the case. Like it was real, or it wasn't real, or maybe there was something a little bit in between.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's actually, I think there's so many great stories from the past that are either true or not true about where potentially women try and advance on someone, but when they're rejected, they turn it around and claim that they were assaulted.
Yeah, this is a very, very touchy subject because a lot of people don't want to actually talk about it. Because they're like, oh, well, that woman was raped, which is a terrible thing, in my opinion. But then if she was raped, some people will go against it and say, no, she wasn't, she's just lying.
Oh yeah, probably in so many instances in court where the defender would undermine or character assassinate, and their testimonies, probably rendered useless or they're just rejected. So probably a lot of victims never were able to face justice or get justice.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked up. And I don't know the exact ruling on how this works in Islam, but if a woman ever accuses someone of her being raped, there have to be at least 3 witnesses. I remember hearing that a long time ago. And if that's the case, then
That's kind of messed up.
yeah, it's kind of messed up as a way to explain
Yes.
that, yes. But prove me wrong. That's what I heard. If I am wrong, then I would like to be proven wrong. But that's what I've heard.
Funny, he told me something similar.
Your buddy did?
Yep.
Yeah, that's just me and internet, listening to podcasts and whatnot. So I don't know the answer to it because I am not associated with that at all.
Truth Seeker.
Well, here's
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to bring up something. No, I'm not going to bring it up. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. This is for anyone. Let's say if there was an idea, and there were two opposing ideas. One side was filled with well, no, I don't want to trigger anyone.
Dude,
I
that's
did
what
ask
Discord is for.
Well, I did ask Truth Seeker earlier today, and I was just going to ask the same question essentially, but about one side having this strange homage to Satan. But yeah, I think what science topic? There was a few questions that I had for the Globe Defenders.
Well, that sounds cool. If you can articulate those questions properly, I'm sure that a lot of people, well, some people that are here may actually contribute the dialogue.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I did have a question for Truth Seeker. Are you here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So, on your globe model, do you think that the moon hit Earth and at one point in history and then bounced off, or maybe debris coalesced into the moon, or have you explored any of that idea?
Yes, that is what I believe, yes.
Okay, so Earth wasn't necessarily a. Do you think it was sphere-like before the collision, or what do you think?
Well, there was multiple collisions, right? It wasn't just like one collision and then it turned into a sphere.
Do you think the moon was the biggest one?
Probably.
Oh wait, you never know. Maybe there were ones bigger than the moon, but
Well, I mean, if it was bigger than the moon, then the Earth would be bigger. I mean, the moon's probably the biggest one because the moon became its own moon. Like, normally, if a collision happens, it just makes the planet bigger. But the moon was so big relative to the Earth that it became its own moon.
so it's an interesting theory, eh? Hitting the Earth, the moon, and then
Maybe God sent the moon to Earth. Maybe the moon serves a purpose for Earth, that God created it for a reason.
oh
Why
yeah,
do we got to go to the moon for moon rocks then?
oh there you go. That's a good question.
Well, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to go to the moon. We just do it because we can.
We can.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so I presume you believe the 6 landings during Nixon actually occurred.
Yes, sir.
Did you always believe, or were you ever skeptical?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Is that
I think
bad?
that's why they rip us off, because they can.
If you could go to the moon, wouldn't you? Like, if you had the money to go to the moon, would you?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Science.
Yeah, there's no fish there. Fuck that.
Imagine smoking a giant blunt and then going to the moon. Would you like that, almighty alchemy? You might actually like that.
Have a party on the moon.
Then you could smoke
No, I
real
personally
moon.
like breathing oxygen and seeing trees and rivers and stuff.
No,
I have
but
no need to travel to some.
back safely. Like, imagine there's no risk of a crash or anything bad happening. It's 100% guaranteed safe. If you could go to the moon for 24 hours with a team, would you do it?
Understand that you're asking me if I would have dinner with Bigfoot.
No, but like, obviously you would want to explore. It's in human nature to want to explore.
I mean, it's a strange line of questioning because you know that I don't think of it the same way as you do, at least.
I mean, you think the moon is a physical place, right?
No, I don't.
Oh, you
I think
don't?
it's a
What
light
is
in
it?
the sky. It's a light in the sky.
Yeah, but it's not like a
So,
single
about it
point.
being
You can like see a surface. You
Yeah.
can literally see the moon craters.
Nah. Well, there's a problem with that too. I mean, they're all the exact same depth, and they were all hit at a perfectly perpendicular angle. There's no glancing blows. There's no oblong ones. They're all the same. And then on top of it, like say it was real and they did go to the moon. Well, nobody would have ever been standing on the moon because the moon would have been so cartoonishly bright that it would basically vaporize you if you were to actually be that close. So just like every other problem with the heliocentric model, you have to throw out all of known physics in order to make your model work, which I'm unwilling to accept.
Sir, you don't have to throw out anything. Who says the moon has to be so shiny and bright? What? That's an assumption.
No, that's a fact. I mean, if it's so bright here on Earth and you use the inverse square law and track your way back 238,000 miles to the moon has to have a certain and particular brightness in order to
That's
be
not how
that
the
bright
inverse.
here on Earth.
I don't think that's how the inverse square law works.
It absolutely is.
Yeah, it would get brighter as we do get closer, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, it's logical. If that's the correct formula, I mean, I think it's been tested.
Yeah, but doesn't the inverse square law assume like there's an atmosphere absorbing all the light?
Well, I did
I
ask
mean,
that question the other day. They say when Earth, supposedly the sun ray reaches Earth, I think they said that it refracts 3% or something like, or slows down rather 3%.
yeah, but I mean, the inverse square law says that something's absorbing the light. Usually, it's other, you know, atoms and molecules that are absorbing the light. If it's just empty space, there's nothing to absorb. You know what I mean?
Well, in the Earth, okay, yeah, I suppose.
No, hold on. It spreads out the same way through a vacuum or through any medium. Light attenuates. It doesn't become a freaking laser because it's in space. It's spreading out in the same way. That's just one problem.
Thank you.
So, like I said, there's inherently an assumption in the thing. It's that light is traveling differently through space, but we can't create that same vacuum here on Earth that we suspect or allege is up there, or that heliocentrism suspects or alleges is up there. So we can't really test or prove it, but we know that the inverse square law is a law for a reason down here. So obviously molecules in the air down here do attenuate light, obviously at a shorter distance. I mean, you can go pull open your weather app right now and see your visibility for today, based on your atmospheric conditions. But that and the inverse square law are two different things. I mean, you're talking about how light propagates, and then you're just talking about atmospheric conditions stopping that.
Okay, yeah, and supposedly the atmosphere extends up to 600,000 miles from Earth, and so
Yeah.
well beyond the moon.
Yeah, exactly. They've had to change that goalpost too. That the atmosphere goes past the moon.
Okay, so you
Detail.
like that the moon is bright because the light is coming from the sun. So,
But that's also another problem, is that it's not the same spectrum, and so it also can't be the sun for that reason.
it's not the same spectrum. What does that mean?
Correct. It is not the same light coming from the sun. It's a different wavelength, bud. It's a cold light. The light coming from the moon
It's a
doesn't add heat; it
reflection.
takes it away. Didn't you know
Yeah,
that?
it's a reflection of light. It's reflected.
Yeah, so it's a cold light, even though it's reflected. It would maintain much of the same. Oh man, I wish I knew this subject a little bit better, because I've heard these arguments before. I just can't retrieve them from my mind at this point. But it's not the same spectrum. Not the same. It'd be like saying, if I shine this laser off a mirror, it's not going to burn you because it's bouncing off the mirror. That's
Yeah,
not
but
even going to
the
choose
moon
that
is
logic.
not a mirror. The moon is not a mirror. It doesn't perfectly reflect light like a mirror does. It's
That's
an
another
object.
great point too. It's a dusty, dirty ball, but it shines up like a light bulb. That doesn't check out either. I mean,
Have you ever shined light at something that looks like the moon, like metal or anything like that? Don't you think that would happen if it's like a massive ball? I mean, it's not that weird.
so if the moon is reflecting back that bright, and then there's like a dark phase of the moon or whatever, wouldn't Earth shine be brighter than moonshine and light up the dark part of the moon when it's facing us?
Well, the Earth isn't like it's made up of different stuff from the moon. We have dirt and plants and
Well, we're 70% covered in water. I mean, that's far more reflective than a dusty moon. So when the sun's shining on the
I don't
Pacific
think so.
Ocean,
I don't necessarily think that water is super reflective compared to metal.
Well,
yeah, go fishing one day.
yeah, isn't water like one of the first mirrors? But before they had man-made mirrors, I'm sure the water was one of the first mirrors.
Yeah, you get burned twice as quick on a sunny day if you're out fishing in a boat. Trust me, I've done it hundreds of times.
Yeah, so I looked it up, and apparently the Earth actually does reflect light. It actually reflects more than the moon does.
Oh, thank you. That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
seems logical.
Yeah, it's because we're living on Earth, so we can't see the reflection. But yeah, the Earth does reflect light also. I
This
mean,
makes sense. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, like the biggest problem in flat Earth is the fact that in the northern hemisphere, the sky is spinning one direction. In the southern hemisphere, the sky is spinning a different direction. That's not possible on a flat Earth
If that's just how it is, why is it a problem?
because it doesn't work on a flat Earth.
That was a
What?
reaction what you got from him, Riggs. That was a reaction you gave.
Well, how about the
Right.
scientific answer then?
Wait,
Did you guys know
wait.
that a downward traveling electric force produces counter-rotating nested vortices? So, I mean, you can say that's just a coincidence, but I mean, I'll take that.
Science.
I think people are discounting how optical the sky is.
Yeah, there's only the optics of the sky in with the globe. There's nothing that corroborates the optics of the sky to tell you that we're either in motion or that the surface is curved. There is only sky curve, and that is
Cool
translated to
story,
the ground.
Yeah,
No,
but
that's the
sky-
truth, dude.
It's
There's-
spinning, so it's in constant motion.
Yeah, so I can also prove that with a downward electrostatic force, like we can test for here on Earth and find, that there is counter-rotating vortices. The inside rotates at one direction, and the outside rotates at another.
So you think the flat Earth is rotating in different directions?
No, I'm just proving to you that a downward electrostatic vector can create counter-rotating vortices.
So
And
just
the optics
maybe,
of the...
Sorry.
You'd have to see it. Go ahead.
yeah, thank you. And just imagine putting that on the firmament, right? You can have the inner rotating one direction and the outer rotating an opposite direction.
Yeah, but this doesn't make sense to me how this would work on a flat object. If the Earth is flat, how would that work? That doesn't
No,
make sense.
It's the firmament.
Well, have you ever seen that glass of water thing where you got an empty glass and there's an arrow? You're looking at an arrow through the glass, but then you fill it up with water and it completely mirrors the image that you're looking at. You know, I mean, optics are a really tricky thing to try and figure out. I'll definitely admit that the optics of the sky are confusing and we don't quite understand them. But the sky doesn't corroborate itself. You know, it's one data point.
Like when you say that it doesn't work, you're presuming the qualities of the sky before you even give it a chance to understand it. Everything else
denying
corroborates
it before you
station.
have a chance to understand it.
No, I'm not denying anything. Like I'm not willing to rush to conclusion. It sounds like some people are.
Why are you trying why are you trying to adjust the other party? Adjust yourself first. You don't know this. You don't know it. Why are you
I'm not the one
tell
claiming
anybody
to know. I'm not the one claiming. When someone says it doesn't work, they're claiming to know. They've excluded everything else, and they've chosen something.
He's still doing it.
No, it's proper deduction, bro. What I'm doing is leaving the door open. Other people are saying it doesn't work with my preconception. That's what you're saying when you do that. Say, oh, it doesn't work on this. Well, you're presuming the qualities of that, and you're saying it doesn't work in your presumption. Your presumption. But why do you have a presumption?
You're still doing it.
Yes, I am.
Has no earthly clue of the topic that we're talking about. You're trying to adjust others. Why don't you go look in chat? Look how two counter rotating poles can work over a level stationary Earth. Why are you trying to adjust people? Adjust yourself.
We're having a discussion here. That's it. And I like the new name, Riggs.
Yeah, I don't.
Truth Seeker, the Glober, apparently said, I don't know how this counter rotating poles can work over flat Earth. I posted 3 visuals for you guys, and you guys are just flapping your lips. Are you aware there is a way to have counter rotating poles over a flat stationary plane?
Bro, I'm not even talking to you.
It's exactly.
I'm not even talking to you. He specifically said the problem is that it doesn't work on a flat Earth. That's what he said specifically. I'm saying it would require certain deductions, and like you would have to already know the qualities of the sky to determine that. I'm not saying I know, but I'm saying that if you rush to conclusion, then you're closing the door before you even understand the true problem in hand.
Well, I think a better way to say it is that, if it is flat and there's multiple spinning poles in space, that it's a massive violation of Occam's razor. So, I mean,
I don't think so, man.
No, I agree with you
personally.
No, I agree with you. Another analogy to that would be like someone claiming to be an atheist, right? They would have had to examine 100% of the evidence.
When I use Occam's razor, that generally applies to things that are like within touch, like within proximity. Things that are applied and used constantly. When you're talking about like something that's so far removed from your position, I mean, it's mostly just a leap. And we know. Look, I can post a video. Dude, they've modeled the refraction of the atmosphere. And when you use that model of the refraction, it doesn't operate on a globe curved system. It doesn't do that. When you apply that refraction on a flat system, you get the same undulation and circling of the sky, the way that things rise and go down, just as we see it. So if you change the geometry of the surface and those mediums, then it doesn't work. So you can't have perspective and refraction, right? You can't have both on a globe. You have to remove one of those. And what they removed was perspective. They removed perspective. They told you that everything is where you see it. So we know this. When they do the calculation for curvature, they don't apply it because it wouldn't work.
Keep coping.
Things
bro.
have to be line of sight.
You
The things
believe
that are
yourself,
dipping
that's the
down,
problem. Just
they're
keep doing it.
attributing that to being behind and dipped down below a curve. So they're consuming the perspective and the refraction argument in their visual observation. It's just not the case.
Or so Riggs believes.
Well, no. I can show you, dude, I can show you the model. I can show you how refraction's modeled on a flat surface, and it mimics how the globe presents itself, the globe story of the sky. It mimics the sky. How is that? How can you have both? How can you mimic the sky on a flat surface and a globe surface?
Sure. Point me where the southern axis of rotation of the sky in which you're talking about is. Where's your
Well,
southern axis
if
of rotation?
the thing is, if we're using refraction to mimic the sky, then I can also use refraction to mirror and reverse the sky.
Sure.
so it could
where
simply
where
just
would
be
you
a-
pinpoint the southern axis of rotation for the stars?
I'm not saying I know it's full dimensions. I'm not saying I know it's full refractive index. I'm not saying I know all the different layers.
The Globers know. The Globers can pinpoint it. And
Well,
this other model of flat Earth
yeah.
that I posted can also pinpoint it too. You might want to give it a look.
Well, they've limited our ability to know the extent of our area. Okay, they have more knowledge about, well, I'll just say that the people who designed the model, they did it within limits to make their case. With limits we don't have access to. I don't think anyone here is going to be throwing up, supposedly nuclear bombs and testing how high and how high the sky goes, and we're not going to be shooting up rockets and going to space. Right? Like, our ability to test the limits of our area is not, we don't have the same access, dude.
One thing I was going to say about Occam's razor is Occam's razor is about like the least assumptions is a large part of it. I just want to say this from before. It's like the least assumptions. And with a Earth with no curvature, because you have to assume curvature. So if you don't assume curvature, there's that. And then whatever the star
what I
patterns
meant.
in the sky just are what they are. That's Occam's razor too. Like,
Well, the thing is, like,
Just
everything in the
gravity.
distance has some kind of optical effect to it, right? But as far as the ground goes, we exist on what appears to be a stationary flat surface. That is Occam's razor. Now, if we look at things visually in the sky and in our surroundings, they don't necessarily comport with where they are because of optics. So we could, using Occam's razor, presume that the sky is a quality of optics as our least assumptions. So it actually just follows our logic train.
yeah, like it's just if you take the most simple, like medium above ground. There's a medium above us. We can't get to it to access it to like test it or get samples of the stars. So the least set of assumptions is I see the stars above. There's no curvature on the ground. There's no motion. That's like the most foundational. Whereas the minute you invoke a globe, there's like a whole bunch of assumptions, which we could get into those. But
There's
a whole long string of them.
Dude, it just blows my mind. People are like, "Oh, it doesn't work on a flat Earth." Like, dude, do you realize there's probably just as much water in the sky as there is like in like an ocean? There's probably even more. There's probably some kind of fluid above us.
Dude,
It's more liquid than an ocean.
Well, yeah, there's no land up there, so it's all. If it is water above, it's all water. Whereas on the ground, at least we got land to take up some of the spot.
What am I talking about?
Yeah, are you talking about like outer space, other planets? Or are you talking about on Earth there's more water in the
No.
air?
No, man. We can read the temperature of the sky, and if all the helium goes up, that shit's turning to fluid. We can read the temperature of the sky.
Yeah, but you said there's more
2
water.
Kelvin. It's
I'm
2
not
Kelvin.
talking
You
about
need 4
temperature,
Kelvin
though.
to get a superfluid. So there's liquid in the sky. It's liquid. It's liquid gas.
Yeah, but the oceans are really deep.
Well, there's
And
probably
there's
even
a
more
lot
liquid
more
gas up top,
depth.
dude. I don't know how much, but I do know that we're contained, and I do know there's liquid in the sky. And not only that, but there's air, and then we have all the density down here. So that like within 15 degrees of the horizon, you have all that essentially terrestrial refraction, right? Which comes from the lower columns of air. But then you have like like the fluid medium up top, which has its own screen-like individual property. So like wherever those objects are in the sky, whether it's beyond or within, it's going to have its own optic spin. And to say that it doesn't work on a flat surface, dude, you're like looking through a piece of glass in the sky. So from every position that you're at from underneath it, it's going to have a different view. You can't just make that claim.
Or what do you think the Earth is in your model? Or sorry, not the Earth, the Moon. What do you think the Moon is?
Oh, me personally, I think that the sky objects are like they're like physical, like sphere type things.
Okay, so those are spheres, but the Earth is different.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think they're like things that float. Or
So something made the Moon a sphere. It's like there's something that caused it to be a sphere. Don't you think
Yeah.
that same force would be applied to the Earth?
No. That's different. So like when you have two different buoyant things, and it finds some what do you call it? Neutral buoyancy. The pressure equalizes in the most efficient shape, which is a sphere. This is why you get bubbles in your soda and your water. You ever had a glass of water sit out and you see all these little bubbles in there? So, I think it has to do with the electrical properties of the sky and the superfluid, that you get these like charged objects that collect and have basically been attached to the flux lines of the magnetic field. And they're spheres. They're the most efficient shape. So they're going to collect, for probably due to like some kind of static reason. It's going to make a circle. It just makes the most sense. But to attribute that, to say that we're like the ground is a sphere because the stuff in the sky is, dude. I mean, if you have a cup of water, if you have a cup of soda and you have bubbles in the soda, does that mean the cup is also a bubble? It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, but these are macroscopic gravity.
Macroscopic gravity.
Yeah, gravity on the macro
asking?
level. I mean, a bubble is like a microscopic gravity, right? But the Earth and the Moon, these are massive objects.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not sure what you're saying.
I
If
mean,
I'm
you're
not
bringing
being
up the
clear,
comparison of a bubble, and I'm like just saying it doesn't really work because bubbles are tiny. The Earth and the Moon are not.
I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, the Earth is large, so I'm not saying that the stuff in the sky is like really tiny, but in comparison to like the globe presumption, yeah, I mean, the Moon could be like the size of a city or a state, right? Like, not. I mean, if we exclude all the optic stuff, I mean, some people calculate it to be around 50 miles around. Now, whether or not that's true, could you imagine like some big 50-mile object? I mean, I'm not saying it's small.
For the Moon?
Well, yeah, some people think that the moon and the sun are like 30 to 50 miles around. Some people think that, but can you imagine an object that big? I mean, in comparison, it would be tiny to like a planet or anything like that. It'd be nothing, right? But on a flat Earth, that is still pretty fucking big.
Problem on the globe model is then it would be the Earth would not rotate the sun if the sun is small. So that would cause problems.
Wait, what? We're talking about the same thing, dude. Like, if I'm not being clear, you can ask me something, but like, I don't know what the hell you're saying.
We rotate the sun because it has such a big gravity.
We rotate the sun because it has a big gravity?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying if the sun was small, it wouldn't have gravity, right? And then we wouldn't rotate it, so it wouldn't make sense on the model, on the globe Earth.
Okay.
Truth Seeker.
That was an absolute faceplant.
Oh, hey, Rixky. Go ahead.
That's right, bro.
Am I missing something, guys? Like, I don't know. Like, he's trying to apply globe to
models. I did want to comment and just sort of say, like, dude, go get yourself something like a hemispherical piece of glass and put a torch over the top of it and have a little play around with it, man. You'll start seeing what we're talking about. And when you look up in the sky, you're looking up through a hemisphere of glass, bro, or fluid.
Yeah, it seems pretty fluidic and probably plasma gases and.
Well, and not to say you can't predict with it, but it's not precisely how it presents itself. Put it that way.
How would you know that though? If you can't go like, how would you know that it presents itself different from what it is if you only see how it presents itself?
Um, yeah, actually, that's a good point because from the well, from the Go Fast rocket, you could see the moon, and it was above the rocket, and it should have, and it was just a small dot in the distance, and it should have been below the Earth over New Zealand. From New
Were people
Mexico.
saying that about this recent Katy Perry thing? People were saying that you weren't supposed to be able to see the moon with the curvature calculations. It should be on the other side of the ball. When they the recent Blue Origin thing, and they all
Yeah, I
they
didn't
saw the moon.
pay attention to it.
Yeah, I saw some
But-
like video of somebody saying it should have been behind the ball, behind the curve.
But I mean, anybody who's looked at the moon, they know it's a pretty sizable detectable. I mean, you can see with your eyes. You know what I mean? Like the moon is detectable, visual with your eyes. You can see its features and whatnot. Sometimes it's massive. Sometimes it's like 300% its size or something. You know, and then you can really see it. But from the Go Fast rocket, you could see the moon up in the sky. You could determine its features somewhat that it was the moon, but that it was just this little dot in the distance. Okay, and it wasn't like a fisheye lens. And there's no way, geometrically speaking, it should have been there. Because number one, there's no atmosphere, so you can't claim refraction. Number two, it's above the rocket, which means geometrically speaking, it would have had been above, like a completely different above the, the altitude of the rocket, on the plane of the rocket, not below the Earth, around the Earth, projecting away from New Zealand. That's ridiculous. It's almost, I think it's like 160 degrees in a different direction. So, anyways,
Good point,
the point I'm trying to say is that it was really small. So, I think what happens is that from being on the ground, the sky objects actually appear somewhat larger because of the optics of the sky. And then as the higher you get, the smaller they get because there's less atmosphere to dilate the object. So. That's just my take on it. Yeah, I don't know what you're saying with all the gravity stuff, though, man. Sorry, I don't attribute gravity and globe forces and all that shit to a flat Earth. I don't even bother. So I don't go there. Dude, everything about like the relativity thing and the standard materialism model just seems like super atheistic. Because I mean, if you think that everything can be quantified and that which cannot be quantified doesn't exist, essentially, then your worldview is specifically eliminating anything that could be defined as supernatural. So you're basically decapitating any kind of spiritual authority from the get-go. So just because
I kind of agree.
I mean, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think the inverse is more true, which is the flat Earth religion is tied to the flat Earth. So going.
What is the flat Earth religion?
Ancient Sumerian Epic of Gilgamesh kind of thing.
What? I don't know anything about that. So did I skip steps?
I'm just drawing them as a connection where I would agree that once, like where you have no fixed position is more valid than another in physics, modern physics. That is deeply atheistic, right? It's saying there's no preferred or special spot.
There's places in science though that they've basically come up to a wall, and the more they dig at that wall, the harder and the more confusing it gets. They find that it just becomes more difficult to break through the wall. It seems to be a natural border. So like there's some places in science that have a natural border to it, and it appears the scientific community is not willing to admit that there's something supernatural happening at this border. And they say, well, with enough time, resources, and if we roll the dice enough, one day we'll get closer to breaking through this border. But it doesn't seem to be the case. Like they've clearly hit the wall, and they're not willing to admit it. They're like a 40-year-old divorced woman who just isn't ready to give up. And just stubborn.
Sure. Yeah, like I think that's why the church fought so hard against I guess they might have been trying to fight against the spherical Earth, but I don't think they were very big players when that was being discussed. But they certainly fought against moving away from geocentrism towards heliocentrism, right? That's a well-established thing, because it gives a preferred position. So yeah, I think I completely agree. It means that you must consider atheism to be possibly true, even though most globers are theists.
Well, it's forced.
Mm.
I mean, they didn't really have a choice, right? So it's somewhat double speaking. It's kind of like, on one hand we dogmatically believe in religion, and on the other hand you must follow this scientific authority. That was basically when they segmented society itself. Like they segmented God from society. They said science is God. That's basically what they did when they entered the globe.
Well,
Science says
Well,
globe.
it's like there isn't a god. There isn't a god, but if there is one, it's the science thing. So check it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of.
That's kind of what they did.
Well, I think we've been replacing God with things for a long time. Like I think a god was a replacement for many gods, and God, as it was like 2,000 to 6,000 years ago, was a good way to control people's behavior because you didn't yet have like proper effective governance, and to punish people because you didn't have prisons, you didn't have police. So it sort of gave everybody a code where everybody knew what to do when they caught someone doing X, and they're all being fair. Like the Code of Hammurabi, I think it's like it was trying to be everything to everybody, and we came in when we didn't need that because we had government, we had all these other things. And the new thing is science, and that's just trying to answer the very last / very first question, which is where do we come from? But it's no longer trying to explain tornadoes or volcanoes. We don't need to explain them with the wrath of God. We just go, it's hot stuff underneath bubbling up. Happens all the time.
You know what's funny is I don't think people really desire to know where they come from. I mean, they hear from their family where their family came from, their ancestors came from, the history of their people and stuff. But the only time that it's really brought up, like where we came from and how it all started, is this religion shit. That's pretty much the only time I ever hear that people are making these wild claims about where we came from and how it was and how it's going to be. And it's more the most authoritative thing I think I could ever hear. It's probably more authoritative than Donald Trump saying I'm the fucking, I'm the captain now. Is to tell me that we came from this bang and this happened, and on these days, God took 7 days and he made the earth or whatever. Like anything that says something like that, and then that's how they start off their book, or that's how they start. Like, dude, that is the most like, dude, what? Like, what now?
Yeah,
like, what
to what level of
talking
detail?
about?
Dude, when you think about it, it's kind of presumptuous. I know that the claims would be like they're saying God wrote through their hand or whatever, through the pen or whatever. But dude, when you think about how like presumptuous it is just for humans to be like, and I am the one who declares the whole earth was started like this. Welcome to my book, and believe me, through the whole
Right?
thing.
Yeah. And the book gives different accounts. So if you read Genesis, there's two versions of Genesis, and one is the Adam, Adam had his rib plucked out and made Eve, and then there's the one where it's made out of clay. And they give two noticeably different sequences of events. So the book clearly is encouraging people to embrace inconsistencies and say that.
Well, look, I don't want to pick on.
Clay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Boy, we don't want to pick on Christianity, but like I'm just saying, when it comes to religion, it seems like that's where they attempt to explain, or I guess the beginnings, right? But I don't think that me personally in my life I ever really thought about like, oh, how did the earth start? I was just like in it. I was like, okay, I'm here now. This is what's going on. These are my people. These are the people that used to be my people. Here's some pictures, and this is the war they were in, and this is what happened, and then you move on. But like, no one ever said, oh yeah, by the way, by the way, Odin fucking came out of the fucking water and he made the land, and then Zeus said, fuck you guys, and threw some lightning, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Riggs.
Like what?
Yeah. Do you find any irony that atheists get their belief in the Big Bang from a priest?
Yeah, I do find that ironic, but also I think atheism is it's the safest position for somebody who does not know that they're being lied to.
Or agnostic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some people, dude, there's people who are agnostic who call themselves atheist, and then they also call themselves agnostic atheists, which is, I mean, these are like totally incorrect use of terms, but they just don't know. They're not educated. Dude, they don't understand the difference or why they're exclusive mutually. They just don't. I don't know why. I think it's like a popular thing.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
But someone has feedback.
Well, it's a condition that like many people, all the way back to Jesus, this is a point he even makes in Conclave, that doubt that faith has to go hand in hand with doubt. So every Christian must contend that it's possible that atheism is true, that they just believe that it's not, and that's why faith is such a core part of it. And I think everybody spends a bit of time going, what if I'm wrong? Atheists spend a bit of time going, what if there was a God? And I think it would be, I wouldn't be boasting if I were a theist who never considered ever, even for a second, hey, maybe, what would it be like if there was no God?
I do think that in some case, though, the same way that like science has consumed the word theory, like the word theory pre-existed and had its own definition, and then science came in as like a yoink. And then now there's like contention between the two, and we would argue all day. But religion has done the same thing, where as much as that somebody might believe a theory or something that's true or proven or whatever, somebody who's very extremely religious, they would they would wholeheartedly believe and yet still colloquially call it faith. So then colloquially using a word faith, it's pre-existing, and then applying it to something that is somewhat more than faith. It's like the highest form of faith, right?
What's the highest form of faith? Which one's the highest form?
A
Seeing and
religious
not
faith.
believing. Yeah, seeing and not believing. Right. Some
religious
people have
faith.
to see to believe. So some people believe the highest level would be to believe without seeing.
Yeah.
So in science, it's called a science. It's in colloquial. Okay, in the regular world, a theory is just a theory. In the science religion, a theory is called a scientific theory. Okay, it's really no different, but it's under the brainwashing term of science. Okay, and in religion, there's faith, which is pre-existing, and then under the brainwashing of religion, you have essentially a religious faith, which is of a higher substance than faith, colloquially speaking. But they're really just the same shit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so. I think that's almost all humans down to every word we speak is trying to convince another person. Sometimes it's just to get a cup of tea for us, and sometimes it's to change your whole worldview. It's just humans will sort of collect together in groups and try to convince you that they're right. I think some are also trying to be right, though. Like, I think both sides. I think even the Christians are trying to get it right. Most of them.
Well, everyone's trying to be right. I mean,
trying to get it right.
I try to be right, but
Exactly.
at the same time, like, I'm more so okay. When I'm trying to be right, though, it's more like a game to me. Like, I find it fun to be investigatory and poke and prod and trying to find things out or whatever. I mean, if I'm right, cool. I would like to be right, but if I'm not right, it's like, oh, okay, damn, I got that. Dude, it's been a few times I've been wrong in regard to the flat Earth thing. There were a couple claims in the past about satellite this, that, whatever. It's like, oh man, I totally misread that website and I got this thing wrong. Happens all the time, right? I would like to be right, but I'm I'm fallible, totally fallible. And we've probably gotten into discussion where like I was like, oh man, yeah, I totally not correct about that. You're correct. Probably done that a few times. But some people, they really like to be right, and they like to debate, and I think it's okay. Hate debate.
Yeah, being right is boring. It's better to make fun of people.
That is fun too. Sometimes. Who doesn't like a little bit of racism?
Where's the race to?
Just regress back to a teenager mindset.
Well, maybe we didn't have it wrong. Maybe we just forgot how to have fun.
No, I was just joking because he said just sit around and make fun of people, and that's usually what people did when we were teenagers.
Well, I mean, it's better than being an adult.
What do you mean?
Right. So like being a child is great, right? Then you get a little older, it becomes less great. Then you get a little older and it becomes less great. And then become an adult and it's like not even good at all.
Yeah. Children,
what's wrong with adulthood? I mean, you can have
because you have all these made up. Well, it's not even. See, that's the thing, right? It's made up responsibilities.
Are they? Don't you make them?
Yeah. So going to work in the grocery store is made up. That's just make believe. Someone made that shit up and convinced you that that's how life is.
I don't know. They did. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
well, I hear even like the idea that like we live in a matrix and like to that level. But I mean, if you go to the store and buy stuff, it's because people work there and have it all set up for you to go buy stuff, and then you get the resources you need. So I mean, it's not just made up; it has a purpose.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
but
if you want to go hunt for your food and like pluck mushrooms, that's still an option for you. You're not nobody's frog marching you into the supermarket and saying get more frosty fruits.
Well, I don't go to the supermarket because I've learned that life is not about working in the grocery store.
So you're not really forced to.
But that's the thing.
Correct.
People have been convinced that it is. People have been convinced that you wake up in the morning, you go to work, you waste all day for someone else, then you go after work to the grocery store to get some stuff, and then you go home and you go to sleep and you do it all over the next day. It's like, that's not life.
Has somebody here been convinced of that?
Look at the world we live in, man. Are you serious?
It just doesn't sound at all like me.
I'm not talking
I
about
think
you.
of
I'm just
that
talking
as
about in general.
I think that is like the Matrix, though. There is like an artificial synthetic way of life that's been placed over humanity. I mean, Eggshells, would you agree with that?
Absolutely, yeah. But I think it all just comes about 99% of it, like maybe not 99. 20% of it comes around through warfare, and the remaining 80% is mostly personal choice, right? I'd rather go to the supermarket because hunting and gathering would take up 90% of my time. I don't want to spend my entire life trying to hunt down a deer.
Yeah, but the grocery store is manufactured for you.
Yeah, to make it more convenient so that I would choose to go to that grocery store.
Yeah, it makes it more convenient.
And convenient, yeah. It's just closer to where I'm going home to. Going there and
Well, it's just a con. It makes you lazy. Basically, it makes you kill yourself.
Where do you get your food, though? I mean, like Eggshell said, if you're going to go pluck blackberries and then go fish and then go pluck mushrooms and go hunt a deer, I mean, that's your whole life at that point.
Well, since I only eat meat, I mean, I can just go to the butcher.
But then you're buying into the same thing. Why is the butcher any different to a supermarket?
Yeah, he has to wake up every day and chop heads off of animals all day so you can go to the store and get the meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually what life is. It's not the grocery store.
It's the butcher?
I mean, it is more real, I guess, than a store. Grocery stores are pretty synthetic and weird. You walk through all the items displayed everywhere. Like, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a strange setup in a way. I've always thought grocery stores well, I mean, there's so many other factors too. All of the, canned foods and synthetic foods and fluorescent lights and sounds. It's all strange, and you pay with it. It's just not very natural. So a butcher is kind of more natural in a way because it's almost like they're in the woods processing animals. It's not like, but sometimes they're in fairly synthetic environments too, though.
Exactly. Like I agree with you. I think it is. Like I love when I go to the farm and they'll be like, "Oh, this rocket is from our garden." And you'll be like, "Oh," and you'll really pay attention to eating the rocket. That's lovely. And I agree with you. The whole world is synthetic at the moment. That's why I think so many people are unhappy because they don't get to do anything in order to get their food. They just buy it and feel bad about it. I don't think the butcher's any less synthetic. Like it's a guy, they're wearing hairnets in my one. He wears a full suit. They have all around the world for ages worn that big smock in front of him. Then he's got to wash his hands all the time and he's got different kinds of meat already cut up and stacked on top of one another in a cooled glass, coffin. I don't think that's very...
and huge refrigerators. Yeah, some of them have huge refrigerator environments, and it's like massive amounts of meat and stuff.
Feedlot animals, most of them, pretty much all.
No, I agree that also is manufactured, but it's because of the world we live in. So the governments or banks or whoever it is has gone around and basically bought up all the land and taken away all of our food, which is the cattle, and they basically condensed it down to just a few people who are owning these things, and then they make you work for your food.
Well, you got to work for your food no matter what system, right?
No, you don't.
What we're comparing is
hold on.
The two ways that we know to exist are farming and hunter-gathering. Farming allows the creation of cities, so that's how you have civilization and computers and stuff. But hunter-gatherers still exist, and when they go and study them, they find they spend, I think it's the lowest end is 60%, and the highest end is somewhere like 90% of their waking hours focused on food activities, food gathering.
I mean, I don't see how that's possible because since I eat what I eat, I barely think about food at all during the day. So whatever you just said is completely untrue.
But what we're saying is the only way to get away from this whole synthetic system that we're decrying and we're all agreeing is a shit system that makes us unhappy. The only way to do that, get away from that, is to go back to being a hunter-gatherer. And then you will need to spend 90% of your time. You'd probably need to spend near on 100 initially to kill animals because you're not going to have
Actually, no, you don't.
have to sharpen a spear.
You really don't. I mean, cows are pretty dumb. They're easy to kill and they feed a lot of people.
Well, that's because they're already domesticated, though. They're already domesticated by this whole effed up system. That's why they're so docile.
Look, it doesn't take many people, right? Even wild animals to kill a wild animal. It's not that difficult for human beings. We can do that.
Why does it take them so long?
Well, I don't know.
Just cultures.
Wait, hold on.
Now,
hold on. Yes, it is. Actually, yes, it is. So,
like a big elk.
Actually, yes, it is. So, I used to play baseball in my youth. Okay. And I was so good, I could throw a baseball and hit someone in the head while they're running. Now you can throw these things hard enough to kill something.
You reckon that's
so? You're gonna
how quickly do you reckon you could single-handed bring down an elk?
I was gonna say you're gonna huck a rock at the head of an elk.
So here's the thing.
That's gonna be a lot.
So the problem is that you're imagining that I'm entering this world all by myself.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
I'm kind of going off the idea. Yeah, I am going off the idea that you can't just go buy a gun or a crossbow or something all with amazing materials ready to go for 400 foot per second crossbow, whatever, to take one out easily. Yeah, you're in the woods. You gotta make a crossbow. You gotta make a bow and arrow yourself, or you gotta huck a rock or make a trap. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying it's even that hard. But if you're just in the woods by yourself, I'm just saying it's not necessarily easy. Like it's going to be like basically a part-time job to hunt all your food and prepare it and all that.
Get water, get clean water, store it. Fix up the tent a little bit. Try to figure out a new place to go. But yeah, hunting is a really high risk activity because the chance that you come back with nothing, having expended a bunch of calories, is dangerous. So generally, gathering is more effective. But they think that males of the tribe would have been like, huh. Like I don't care that I can come back with a big sack full of berries. I don't want to be the fucking berry carrier, And so he'll go out and risk his life to bring down an elk because I don't think you're getting an elk very easily. And I think the chance that you die while doing that because the elk turns on you, or you slip, or running through the bush a snake gets you. Like think about how many injuries as a hunter gatherer you could get, just like a cut that goes septic, and you'd be just done. You could just be dead now.
Like really, you're
I think
just
there's a
dumbing
lot of
humans
advantage in
down.
this synthetic system.
So here's the thing. So humans are far more intelligent than you're giving them credit for. So I'm going off of the idea that we already know how to do all this and we have been doing this and we've been tricked into doing it another way. Not that we're just retarded and if everything went away, we wouldn't know what to do.
No, yeah, but what would you want that's better? What would you want that's better? Like if you and I lived in the woods together, you and I, and that was it. All the people on Earth, just you and I. Yeah, we could do it, dude. We could hunt, we could make little tools and we could do it. But now we're spending at least 15, 20 hours a week doing all that. And is that what you're suggesting is ideal? Or are you saying there should be a system that things are more streamlined, but it could be better than this one?
Yeah, but why would we be doing all that? Because so the way I'm viewing it is we would simply replace the current system with the correct system. So the correct system is we have all the cattle and we share the cattle. See, because that's really the idea of the world, is to share, not to be greedy. So the current model is greed.
Individual. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I mean,
Yeah,
individual.
so that's the thing, right? So when you're imagining me going out in the woods, you still have the greed mentality and not the sharing mentality.
I don't think that's fair or that's accurate, or I've given, unless you've got something you want to point out that I've done that makes you think that I'm so selfish.
Well, actually, so you imagine that if the world was to be like that, I would just die because I'm the only one there doing it. But that's not how it would be.
Right. Okay. So what I mean is, the reason I've picked that is because we are now in time. We exist in 2025. So I'm not imagining other scenarios, other existences, other timelines. I'm just saying there are hunter-gatherers now that still exist. There are Aboriginals in Australia that practice traditional lifestyle. They're in Papua New Guinea. They're in parts of Africa. They're in parts of Indonesia. They are on the islands, North Sentinel Island. They are scattered all over the Earth. Are little groups that are still hunter-gatherer. And I was assuming you join them. And what I would say is they spend, when anthropologists go to spend time with them, they tot up how much time they're spending doing things. And they say that food and water, sustenance, takes up more than half of their waking hours. And I think that kind of makes sense. What I'm saying is if you went to join one of those tribes tomorrow and they let you in, I think you'd be far worse than the average hunter because they would
that's impossible. Because like I said, because I've told you this before
thousands of times.
I've said this before. So when you eat meat, you don't think about food all day long. So whatever you're watching on TV, because I know you didn't go hang out with these local tribes. You just saw some kind of documentary or whatever, and they fed you some bullshit. They told you that all they do is spend all day doing whatever it is they're doing. But you have no idea.
How much of their day do you think they spend?
So I would guarantee it. They spend very little on food.
I mean, the mainstream
is very little, half an hour.
The mainstream story is that hunter-gatherers had the most free time out of any kind of farming thing or anything.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like 20 hours a week, maybe 15
of food gathering,
of just everything. Basically, if you're just living. I mean, I know, like, what are we talking about? If you're just completely living in the woods and you built a little hut or whatever, versus like having more, because if you have more of like buildings and things, then of course there'll be more like maintenance. But yeah, I mean, in general, just like hunting, keeping up your living environment, like XL said, 10, 15 hours each person, a week. And then everyone, and everyone else, and then the rest of it, like if everyone does about 10, 15 hours, it's probably about all you would need. And then
the free time would be spent. It would all be spent like making families and then teaching your children how to hunt and just being super successful.
Yeah, I mean, being creative, having sex, but making kids, being creative, swimming in the water.
And you'd have the calories to do that.
Yeah,
and the nutrients to do that. Yeah,
enjoy the sun, play in the water. Make a rope swing.
Okay, I found some on the Kalahari. I'll put it in 3 to 5 hours per day. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So if I'm thinking like you're waking up and about from like around 10 hours, that's up to half. So it's less than I was saying, but it's still a sizable chunk of your day. 3 to 5 hours, like at 5 hours, that's most of a work day.
How many people do you think a cow could feed? One cow.
The cow doesn't count. You're talking about hunter-gatherers. Cows don't exist in a hunter-gatherer landscape.
Cows exist. I mean, so here's the thing. Cows do exist.
Who's breeding these cows for you to hunt?
Sorry, cattle does exist.
I mean, once you have traps,
are you hunting?
Once you have
there was
traps,
an auroch. The cow came from an animal called the auroch, which was similar to a cow, just faster and more beastly. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah. Once you have the trap set, though, or belt, like there's an ancient Indian fish trap shaped like an M. and you just got to like toss food in there, and then you just go like scoop fish. It's like fish in a barrel. You could dig holes with spikes at the bottom, and animals will just fall in them every once in a while. Or like once you got all these like traps set, like there's not a lot to do. You go bag an elk, a five, I don't know how much elk is, 1,000 pounds. It's like a lot of meat. Like you're good for a while on that.
Yeah, just for sure. If you get a big one like that, then you can drag it back. By the time you cut it all up and you dry some of it and eat a bunch of it, and yeah, it does last quite a while. Yeah, you're good. I mean, depending on how many people you're feeding, like you might be good for like a few days just on one, at least for everybody, kind of thing. I mean, how many pounds?
Probably months if you can like smoke it, or you got a little, you dig a hole and got it. What do they got? Little cellars, root cellars. I don't know.
I guess it just depends on how many people. Yeah, how many people you're feeding.
See, I don't think 20 people could eat an elk in a week.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of.
How big of an
a lot
elk?
of meat. Big elk, yeah, big elk. Medium size. We'll say medium. Just medium.
That's a lot of meat.
Yeah, like you go bag a giant, a big ass thing. Like you're good, dude. And then if you got fish to supplement it, and you got some nice fruit trees near you, like you would have a lot of free time potentially.
So like a medium-sized typical elk would be this like 500 to 700 pounds. So you got to figure out how much of that is like blood and bones, which you're going to use the bones too. You can use all of it, but there's
Bone
obviously
marrow, soup.
Yeah, you're pretty much going to eat all of it. I mean, other than like the skin, which you would use for clothing, but like every other part is pretty much edible. Like even the whole skull you put into a bone broth, the brain, every single part you can eat, the bones. So, but of that 500 to 700 pounds, how much of that is meat? Even if it's 300,
a couple hundred.
Yeah, and if each person eats like 2 pounds a day, that would last.
You're good for a while, I know.
And that's a lot. 2 pounds a day. Whew.
Yeah,
that's about what I do. I eat about 2 pounds a day of meat.
Out of any civilization, the hunter-gatherers had it the best. They were doing 3 to 5 hours a day. That's friggin' perfect.
Yeah,
you can't
beat
beat that.
Friends, like it'd
You're
be a fun
chilling.
job.
Yeah, we're cool and we're out fishing, we're out hunting.
Exactly.
Like it's awesome.
Like we go do this for fun nowadays.
People pay to do that now.
Yeah, but you don't have
people pay to go fish and hunt.
Then we wouldn't have Nintendo.
Exactly right, and we wouldn't have doctors, and we'd like.
Well, we can't all do it. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't want my brain surgeon having to worry about hunting in the mud with a deer. Like I want him ready for brain surgery at all hours. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Do we need brain surgeons in the world? Really?
Not if we eat correctly.
What are those guys really doing? I mean,
I'm just saying, like a heart surgeons or something else.
Yes, sir. We need brain surgeons. They're very important.
For what?
Like eventually, I want these guys to be able. Well, maybe not the brain surgeon, but like the heart surgeon. Like eventually, I want them to be able to just like transhuman put a robot heart in you, and you're good. Like you ever seen Bicentennial Man?
Oh, I have, but I don't remember it. What happens in it?
He fell in love. The robot came alive. He fell in love with the chick, and he kept replacing her body parts with machines and stuff. And she was like 200 years old. I'm just saying, like, you get a lot more probably better years out of life if you started like, doing stuff like that.
I mean,
it's
it's
a whole
fun.
Topic, though.
Yeah, it is. Well, as fun and romantic as it would be to just like live in the woods and be hunter and gatherer, I don't even really want that. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not. I mean, I kind of want. I think there's a lot more we could do as humans in life than that. I think the hunting and gathering thing is cool, like living in the tribal thing. I'm not saying I'd be against that type of life, if that was just my life, but I'm just saying with everything we have now, I kind of joked about like we wouldn't have Nintendo if we were just living in the woods, but I don't really care about Nintendo actually. But there's a lot of cool things that we can do as humans. It just seems like we can have a system where maybe not every single one of us has to be out shooting animals. That can still be streamlined, and we can have cool things like cars and planes and automobiles, and planes, trains, and automobiles. And I mean, unless BB, are you suggesting to have none of that and just have nothing in the modern era?
Well, no, we would. See, the thing is we would have more than that, and the food source is the cattle, right? We're not hunter gatherers.
We still do a hunting and gathering. Like we got ships out there that are hunting fish and gathering fish or whatever you do with fish.
Well, I mean, sure, you can do all that stuff, but again, all you need to do is eat a cow. That's it. That's all you need to live.
The point. So I've been listening to Guns, Germs, and Steelers while I'm on this topic at the moment, and he's talking about how this evolution from hunter-gatherer to thingy. The reason we're saying no to cow, you can have the aurochs, is the cow is only the result of domestication. I.e., the only way you can hunt and gather a cow is if you're stealing it from a farmer who keeps breeding them.
Can you prove that?
Yeah, there's no natural cow population anywhere in the world.
You literally can't prove that.
Just true.
Because
you don't know what a domesticated animal looks like?
Have you been everywhere in the world?
But you get the difference between a chihuahua and a wolf.
The answer is no.
Can I weigh in on this?
This is very
Eggshells,
strange.
you should know.
There's
we
no
farm
cows
the cattle.
in hunter-gatherer cultures. Once you've got a cow, you're farming.
Eggshells, dude.
Very simple.
Out in the outback, right? They just let the cows roam around anywhere they want, right? And then once a season or once a year, they go round them all up.
Exactly.
That's effectively all they're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. What do they
Guess
do?
Whose land? Guess whose land they're on?
Yeah, Aboriginal.
Guess whose land they're on? Crown land. It's all crown land, bro.
Oh yeah, you can sometimes graze on Crown land. That's a well-established practice. But when an Aboriginal hunter-gatherer tribe comes upon, have got farmers' cattle and kills them, what happens? All throughout Australian history, US history.
Yeah, no worries. I get where you're coming from, but
We kill
the
them, right?
proposition is that you may like imagine that you've got like just a. I mean, they're basically wild out there. Like I know they're domesticated; they were probably officially inseminated, et cetera, et cetera. But those cows, if left alone to their own devices, would just continually populate there. Like before the humans disappeared, those cows would be out there in the outback for a pretty long time, I'd say. Changing, evolving, maybe you might say. Who knows? But the point is that like the only reason that they're farmed in the way that they are is because it's effectively all the national land that they use to graze is all Crown land. They're being permitted access to that Crown land. And these like, it sort of puts even the proposition forward of like, I mean, should people be able to own that much land and say, well, I'm going to graze my cattle on this and no one else can do anything about it? I don't know where, what's his face?
It's nobody else can do
He
anything
changes his
about
name all the time. Zombocracy. Like how would you lay this out? Like, given the issue, like Eggshells is pointing at this is a farmer's product. And
it's a domesticated species. So there's the aurochs, which Geo's posted an image of, which is this fearsome bull-like thing that runs much faster, is far more likely to gore you to death, that hangs out in herds. And what we did was selectively bred them to be more and more and more docile and have shorter and shorter horns until now they've got no horns. And I'm saying once you've got a program that's keeping cattle from fertilizing, from growing horns again, that is farming. So what he's proposing is hunter-gathering. You can't do that with domesticated animals. That's just cheating. Otherwise you're saying this: I need to live next door to a farm or some sort of people who are feeding me cows I can shoot, because cows are easy to shoot. But the challenge needs to be, if you're a hunter-gatherer, hit a wild animal, which are much harder to shoot. Like I can shoot a fucking cow.
They shoot roos all the time.
No, we could get rocks. Yeah, we could get rocks and stuff. Yeah, we could get all that. I mean, humans are good hunters. I mean, with strong humans, yeah, you can do it. I mean, with the spear and all that. I mean, it's more work, though. I hear what you're saying, that, it's going to be a bit more, it's going to give you more of a workout to do that.
Yeah, like I think if the three of us went at it, if Geo, me, Rixky, and Zombieocracy went after an aurochs, we could get it. But it might take us a whole afternoon, right?
And every 2 to 3 years, one of us might die.
Exactly, right. So suddenly turns around on one of us and
yeah, it turns around. You got the wrong angle. You slip and fall. Exactly, one horn through this middle of your chest. It's over.
Yeah. It would be fun. I would pay to do it, but I wouldn't want to live in that culture because I think it'd be really fucking awful.
I'm just wondering whether or not you could have it so that these animals like almost effectively roam free. And you could send out, like, they would have contracts. Like, the hunters could go out and contract with the butchers and say, like, you got 10 heads to collect this week. Off you go. And we don't need to resort to this farming and sort of artificial insemination program. I don't think it's necessary. And all the vaccine stuff that they create, like, crazy shit. And then they often take those cattle in from the outback and fatten them up with grains and make all of their flesh all, like, inflamed and shitty. We change and alter the product. For some reason, apparently that's better. I don't get it. In any case, like, we could probably do away with a lot of these institutionalized regulations around it if you just went wild.
I don't think that would mean fewer weird things being put in your cows. I think the regulations are mostly to stop people permanently dosing them on antibiotics and stuff and using noxious bloat bombs that have known effects on humans. There's these giant capsule that when some of the cows eat, when the grass is a bit too green, they might get a bit gassy. So to stop them getting bloat, you put bloat bombs down, which is basically a tic tac about the size of a dildo. It's got wings on it, and you shove it down the cow's neck with this big applicator thing. And you used to give them that to stop them getting bloat.
That would be then that the cow is not very well adjusted it's become too domesticated. This is why I would say that you need to let nature take its course a little bit in that regard, and you'd have a more resilient animal. You don't need to apply these medical interventions to.
Yeah,
I mean, it sounds like it's eating the wrong
I agree
food.
with that idea.
I was going to say, are you talking about corn fed? Because that's where all the gas and bloat comes from, is the corn. Because green grass is great for cows. So did you mean corn?
No, it happens as well with corn, and they give them like they just put them immediately on a drug regimen as soon as they arrive at those places.
It's all the pesticide. It's killing the bacteria in the gut that's necessary not to have all that gas.
Yeah. So if your cow's eaten lots of dry grass for ages, then suddenly the drought breaks and there's clover everywhere, their gut biome will just react a bit funny to it. Is my understanding?
Are you sure?
Not sure, but my understanding is you bloat when suddenly clover pops up and they're all eating lots of clover and they're suddenly stacking on a lot of weight. That's when you want to give them a bloat bomb, because they'll lose a lot of that weight if they get bloat and sick, and they can die from it. But we don't.
And it's in the farmer's interest to
feedlots. We sell them, and the people who buy them are feedlots, but we only just feed them on the farm. But we've only used bloat bombs, to my knowledge, like 3 or 4 times in the.
Well, back a little bit to what we were saying. Like, couldn't we just have like an in between would be like, let's say we lived a little more spread out. We let the animals roam free, first of all, so you could like hunt as well. But you could then also just have huge areas that would be just like wild preserves where you'd have all the animals that would be free. as well as they're in other places too. And then all you'd have to do, or all you could then go out and have a team that would hunt on the land, and then that team would prepare the meat for the rest of the peoples. It's kind of like a farm, but instead of a farm with like, fencing and all these drugs and all the crazy feed and all the crazy stuff, just like a huge, whatever, 2,000 acres. Maybe you would have a high fence around it or something if you wanted to keep that separate, or you just let all the animals roam free. But I'm saying, couldn't there be like a wild farm like in between these options?
I like the idea. I think it would be really nice, but I think it would be make for like really bespoke, like expensive way to get your meat. Because I think you can do it already, like with deer. The manager just shot a deer, 12-pointer. It was huge. I took a photo. And you can just cut that up and go into the butcher and sell it as venison. That's legal. And you can do that on like state forests here. You can get permits to do it in national parks. Crown land, you can go shooting.
Shooting. Y'all have
Pretty
guns?
sure. Oh yeah. Yeah, my brother's got an AR-15.
Oh, really? That's you can kill some squirrels with that one.
Yeah, I think his use case was rabbits because there were so many and he needed something semi-auto.
Yeah, it's a perfect little fox gun.
Yeah, I would love it. Yeah, all hunters just go out and they harvest the whole thing themselves. All the process.
Yo, if we had to get all our meat from nature at this point, there wouldn't be a chipmunk left outside. I hear you with the wild. Right? I hear you with the wild farm thing, and that sounds dope. But like, we'd have to make sure they have enough grass and stuff like that. Would be neat. I don't know. I mean, you got to be growing the food.
There's buffalo in like South Dakota. There's a company called Wild Idea Buffalo. That's what they're called, Wild Idea. You can look them up and you can order their meat and stuff. But they have like buffalo just roaming on thousands of acres, and they don't feed them anything. They don't have to give them any water. They literally just roam free. They go out there with a gun. They take them out, or they harvest them like in the field. So they shoot one of them in the field, and then they just drive a truck up, and then they dress it right in the field. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying that would feed the whole world, but I mean, it could actually if that was expanded in a way. But I mean, those buffalo are just roaming free and eating what they eat, and yeah.
Do they have like just a big fence around it, or is that not even necessary?
Well, I know it's like there's like several ranches that are huge, so they may have some fencing on the very outskirts of it. But I mean, there's like it's like thousands of acres that they're just roaming free, and they don't do anything to them. They don't like. I don't think they really hurt them. I think they just kind of watch them and let them chill, and then.
Dude, with the scale of the what is it? The geoengineering sort of program that I think that they've got. I mean, they could green the entire inland of Australia and just let the cows go. And people are like, it just work. They just irrigate the entire thing with the storms that they're throwing down from the tropics.
Yeah, you would just have a whole new frontier too. It would reopen frontier. Like, when has the world last had a frontier? And it was pretty much Australia was the last one, wasn't it? Where you was like expanding onto land you could use. If you did that, you'd just have a new frontier. You'd have inland cities in Australia. It would be epic.
Yeah, they go on about Israeli irrigation program. If we got control of the clouds in the sky like they have for good. You just have a program. Like, it needs to rain at least once a week. This is how we're going to do it, guys. Okay. The rest of it's sunny. Just one bad day a week. That's all we want.
No, but have you heard that? Have you heard that actually, that when you take the wild animals off the land, by farming and limiting their scope and all of that, that's actually what causes droughts. Is that it's actually the wild animals being taken off the land, and if the wild animals are on the land, nibbling on the plants, and then they release their dung into the ground to be recycled, all of that. Apparently that. Creates a more a natural plant balance, and somehow that it's like it calls the ether for more rain, if I were to put it that way. Is the idea that it actually it somehow activates in the environment, that cycle, and the wild animals, the wild game are an essential part of that, and it actually causes it to rain more. Whereas when you and there's a lot that have written on this idea, and there's more to it than just like a fly-by-night idea. I mean, there's a lot more to it, and research that has gone into it too. But whereas when the grazing animals are back on the land, it actually rains more, and so that could be part of the reason that we have these water issues, because we've taken all the wild and grazing animals off the lands, and for the most part, and put them into factory farms, and then, it's just we've disrupted the natural balance in that way.
You're saying cow farts cause rain, Gio? Is that what you're saying?
No, wild animals eating the plants.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's something I think you're right, because it's at that same point they made about the wolves, didn't they? Where they were they reintroduced wolves, and then suddenly the rivers were teeming with life again, because you find there's they all do all these poos, or they keep something in balance. And Australia's inland used to be really fertile. It was I mean, again, you've got to believe the mainstream narrative, but you can see pretty good evidence for it. There is a mud flat that has footprints in it where the person is running at 37.5, like Usain Bolt speeds across mud barefoot. They think hunting a kangaroo because they can just see these perfect tracks of where these multiple hunters went, and one of them is going at this massive pace.
I happen to think they're made up. That doesn't make any sense to me. How did it not rain there to like cover up those mud?
It just needs to harden. It just needs to harden beyond once, and then get covered in dirt, and then it's preserved.
Okay,
it's a rare event. But, I mean, it's a rare event, but that you can get footprints caught in a like.
Maybe they were giants.
Something you can check.
Giants in Australia. There you go.
Well, they've got ordinary size feet. Like I think they're tallish. They were like 6 foot, I think, some of them. But ordinary foot size. Just they go by how far apart the feet are. They found one was going at this ridiculous speed. Anyway, I was only saying that because they believe the middle of Australia was really, really green. There was loads of hunting and rivers and dams.
He was running in mud. He was going as fast as Usain Bolt in mud.
Yeah, that's what maybe not Usain Bolt. Let me find the thing.
I'm familiar with the claims, but yeah.
I mean, I guess my ultimate, in terms of what we were talking about before too, just, I don't know if you guys moved on a little bit from it, but just how do we, like this whole agricultural era is just like problematic on many levels. This whole agricultural, I know they try to say it's like an agricultural revolution, but I think it's more of a devolution. And then the whole like just farming and factory farming, just the whole thing that's going on Earth. But how do we like maintain our modern lifestyle and then improve our relationship with the Earth and with farming and how to get our food, and like how would we bridge that if that was to be bridged? Because to me, that's more rather than going back to hunters and gatherers. It seems like we need to somehow bridge what currently exists and make it better.
Well, I would say that
bugs.
the
bugs.
Now the easiest solution is for people to stop thinking that they own everything.
Get rid of ownership and have more sharing.
Yeah, because that's really the issue.
Own nothing, be happy.
Well,
I think the solution is.
How about we all own everything?
Yeah.
So communism is truly. Like,
Communist.
if you look at communism, like if you actually just objectively look at communism is actually a beautiful system. The problem is that humanity is corrupt, and that's such a vulnerable system that it falls to totalitarianism extremely quick. So therein lies the problem.
Yeah, I don't think communism really, I think it's a very busted idea. It's like a nice idea, but it's busted. I think the solution to just this bit, not about the politics, to answer Geo's question, would be you're not going to like it, but if you reduce the Earth's population to like, let's say 500 million, so it went down like nearly 10 times what it is now, you would regain so much, like the growth would take over again, forests would suddenly regrow and fish stocks would replenish. And then those people could still have the technology of today, but stocks could possibly be so plentiful that you could go fishing of a weekend and catch enough fish for the week. And so you could still live this quite connected lifestyle, but I think you would have to have far, far, far fewer people because the world's population is meant to have exploded.
Because
with this.
we already have cattle.
This is the Georgia Guidestone approach.
Yeah, it's just a general fact, which is if it's about nutrient density, how much can you get per foot, square kilometer, doesn't matter, per unit area of land in a place. And that means you can then create cities, right? Because you can have a class of people in that city who aren't working for food. And what you're saying is, how can we bring it back down? But I just don't know how people would voluntarily not eat chicken nuggets. They're pretty good. But if there was far fewer people, then fine, you can eat chicken nuggets because we don't kill the planet to make chicken nuggets. You can still buy them from the butcher, but there's so fewer people that everybody can have a mansion, a giant parcel of land.
Gintopia.
So it sounds to me like you're saying that those of us who have always sought a more natural lifestyle should be punished for the crimes of those who are wretched and live in cities.
Yes, that's what he wants.
I don't know. What are you saying? How would it punish you?
Because I grew up with my own garden, my own chickens. I grew up with fresh meat from the butcher who had the cattle right down the road. You know what I mean? Smaller, the thing you're talking about doing away with because we're supposedly killing the planet when in fact it's the people who are grouped up in cities who can't do anything for themselves because they think that they're a higher class and they don't have to work for food.
Eating chicken
nuggets.
nuggets.
That's just unnecessarily putting ideology. It doesn't matter who they are or why they're doing it. It just matters that they want to eat chicken nuggets and there's billions of them.
Do you eat chicken nuggets?
Sure, they're fucking tasty.
Those things are gross.
Anybody doesn't eat chicken nuggets from time to time is missing out. If you eat it for every meal, you're a bit of a drongo. But if you're, on a bit of a night out and your mates are popping into Macca's, sure, get yourself a box of chicken nuggies. Unless you don't walk past Macca's ever. I don't know. That'd be a fun life. Be able to meet up with your mates.
Is this English? Is the last 20 seconds English? What were you saying? I think those are stores that we don't have. Or what was the place?
Chicken nuggets from Macca's, McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
I think he said nuggies, like a child.
Okay.
Chicken
First
nuggets,
off,
yeah.
Wait, you call
nobody,
McDonald's? Wait, you
nobody.
call McDonald's Maccers? What'd you call
Macca's,
McDonald's?
yeah, it's a standard Australian thing. We all call it Macca's.
Okay, I have not. We call it Mickey D's, I guess. People say that, but I've never heard Maccers for McDonald's.
And nobody covets McDonald's chicken nuggets, bro. Those are like the worst.
When I was a
They're
kid,
not
they were
bad.
maybe all right, but nowadays, yeah, I haven't. I mean, I haven't had those ever, like in my adult life, virtually ever.
Oh, never mind.
When we were kids in the
he's-
'90s, they were probably at least somewhat chicken, made of chicken back then.
I mean,
Yeah,
really,
he's in
how is
the
it
UK. They're
possible? How's it possible that they get them to be the same shape all the time?
It's extruded. That's not.
Well, they're
it's not made
shaped.
sinew.
Yeah, they're
mulch it
stamped
all
into
up.
those shapes, right?
Yeah, I know, but just think about that, right? Do you really want to eat something like that?
Sure, I'm not saying they're good for you. I'm just saying I occasionally eat them.
Molded food.
Let me tell you a little something. Claxton, Georgia, right up the road from where I live, about an hour up the road. Claxton is almost all chicken houses. So that commercial chicken racket that you're talking about, like there's a lot of it in Ohio too. I've seen them. Georgia has a lot of them. That's your commercial groweries. The ones that are owned by like companies like Tyson are awful. That's your chicken nuggies. That's your commercial.
Yep.
Those chicken houses are awful. And then you have literally the same farmer on the same land will have different chicken houses that are for the local butchers and the grocery. Completely different quality of life for those chickens.
What if the suffering is
We're in the conjunction.
Uh-huh.
So something I heard about recently in regards to the celestial bodies that we see in the sky is this sun.
Yes,
You
they're
know-
in the constellations. Each one